And we are live. Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico and I am your in-house conservative. Somewhere on top of me is Rob Ambrose.
I'm always on top of you, brother.
Oh, talk about destroying a fucking introduction.
There you go,
asshole. Rob Ambrose somewhere on top of me. Yeah, sure. That did not sound right at all. Fuck!
Behind you is Rob. In front of you is Eric. High-fiving, doing the Eiffel Tower.
Rob Ambrose is our idiot.
Resident lefty?
I mean, resident lefty,
dummy?
resident liberal.
Resident retard.
And, you know, our goal is simple. We want to show you that it's possible for a lefty and a righty to get along. And when we don't get along, you know what we do? We have a conversation like civil human beings. Because remember, common sense has no political affiliations. And let me put a correction there. We both know that if Rob and I were in a relationship, he'd be the bitch.
I know where you're going.
Let's make that clear right now. Let's make it clear right now.
If we ever got that far, we'd be like, well, fuck, how's this going to work? Like, we're both trying to do the top thing. But thankfully, I don't think we'll ever be in that position.
No, sir.
Yeah, good to see you guys. We've got a friend of the show on today. Oh, sorry, Nico. I don't know if you're going to introduce him, but you go ahead.
No, I was going to put him on a timeout in the corner so he can speak. Of course, I'm going to introduce him.
Yes.
Kris Eriksen is someone that I don't know personally. Like, it's the first time that we meet in real life or in digital life, if you will. But he's always sharing your stuff, and he has a really nice audience on X, at least like a good 100,000 followers, and it helps, right? When you reshare a stream on X, we can see it right away when you reshare. I don't even need to go check. I know that it's you because we're getting a few hundred viewer more than we normally do, and just absolutely love it. I have a lot of respect for that. It's not everybody that has the balls to share the type of content that we record every day. So, Kris, really happy to have you on. We're going to run the show like we normally do, but you'll get to participate to give your opinion and swear. As you can tell, I don't think I need to tell you, but just in case you were wondering, yes, you can fucking swear.
Oh, yeah.
You can say pretty much whatever you want. We'll figure out a way not to get in trouble on YouTube, but welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, Kris, why don't just since you're new here, and as Nico said, we've interacted a little bit just through X, but why don't you just give us a brief introduction of yourself, your politics, and sort of where you stand?
Sure. Yeah, and thanks again for having me, guys. I love your content. I love the grind. I kind of feel at home when I see that two guys are able to have civil discourse that may be on different ends of the spectrum. How we define that spectrum today has been kind of warped, but I think it's good to show people that you can have differences of opinions without putting each other into a corner and pointing and yelling, right? My background is I spent a lot of time in human rights advocacy over 20 years, working with marginalized communities. I kind of elevated into the realm of politics, just kind of being a pain in the ass. Really, just one of those guys that if the disenfranchised don't have a voice, I'd put my suit and tie on and I would get to the bottom of things and try and help. Which allowed me to have a kind of a unique path as far as being. I hate using the term fixer, but I guess that's kind of what I was. I've been an independent. That's for the majority of my life. The only time I was a part of a political party was when I was helping somebody run for office. I've been campaign managers on both sides. I've helped numerous parties, provincial, federal. And when I got to the point now, I retired from the game in 2019, literally right before the COVID event hit. Because I wanted to live my life. I spent 15, 20 years just grinding 10 to 12 hours a day, and then decided to pull back once I got to a point in the game where there's a piece of you they want I was never going to be willing to give. And so that transition led me to X and to other things as far as how do I reinvent myself in a way. And I don't mean, I love the spotlight. I actually hate the spotlight. I've just started doing these kinds of things again because I feel very limited in my voice. I can come across as the Clint Eastwood on the front porch with a shotgun, get off my lawn.
Yeah. You gotta love that movie. This is my hope.
El Torino?
No.
El Camino?
Gran Torino.
Gran Torino.
Gran Torino. Yeah. This is my dream. He is my hero in that movie. So good on you. Don't get off my fucking love Zipperhead. Fucking love it.
Doesn't mean I don't have it in me. Like, I do have that in me. I have my boundaries. I have my values, my principles. If you cross them, then I will check you. But the same with you guys is that I don't try and tell you how to think. I'm not telling you that you must believe. Like, I know the answers to everything. It's just, but no, I have my values and my principles, my integrity important to me. And that's why when I got into this situation, you know, when people ask me, it's like, I don't view myself as an influencer. I don't view the people that follow me as followers. I view it as we're all walking together. And so when I see guys like you come together, it warms my heart because we need so much more of that in the world. Too much division, too much polarization. You guys have fun as well too. Like most of the time, even when I don't get a chance, I was telling Nico that I usually watch your rerun. But when I see you guys pop up on the side and I see, you know, if there's anything I can do to help, most people that do follow me, for lack of, that are walking with me, know that I don't view myself as more important than anybody else. I have no misplaced sense of importance. But when I see people doing the grind and trying to educate people while having fun with it, and whatever this is that we're dealing with right now, I want to do whatever I can to help. So thank you guys for having me on the show. I'm grateful for this, grateful for the work you guys do, and I'm looking forward to today's discussion. Hopefully, one of many. You know.
Absolutely. And thank you for coming on. I mean, I can already tell just by the brief interaction we had before the show and what you're saying now that you're going to fit in perfectly right here. And you know, this is kind of a no ego place. I mean, obviously we all have one, but we all check them at the door a little bit. And because I think we all believe here that we're creating something special. And it isn't even really about the politics or the positions. It's more about the space to create where you can have different opinions. And as you know, as we've said, if you watch the show, you'll know I'm the lefty, Nico's the righty, but I think you alluded it to a little bit to it before. I think a lot of times those distinctions are breaking down. Those labels don't always make as much sense as they used to. So I think more importantly than strictly defining yourself by a label is just creating a space where we can all talk freely without feeling like you're going to be, you know, attacked or called racist or hateful or talked down to just because we might not have the same beliefs. And you know, one thing me and Nico realized once we started doing this is, I mean, we're maybe on different sides of the spectrum, but when you really come at it from a common sense perspective, we really actually agree probably on 80% of the time, or at least have common ground. The media would have us believe that we're enemies, right? There's nothing in common. And when you really get down to it, you realize we actually have a lot more in common. And even as Nico likes to say a lot, you know, we often will agree on the problem. We might, you know, we agree on the diagnosis, maybe just differ on the prescription. But you know, that's where the debate is productive. You know, it's if you don't agree on the problem, you can't have a debate at all, right? So yeah, so
need a starting point. Yeah,
exactly right. So thanks for being here. I think you'll fit in perfectly.
Perfect. Even if I don't, I'm not going to, no judgment or ego.
You want to take some of the comments?
Yeah, we'll take a few of these comments
You know what? Hold on. Let me run through. I have a bunch of announcements to make. So now that people know who Kris is, fuck Rob, we all know who you are.
Yeah.
I just had a few things I wanted to bring up, as in Tuesday next week, we will have Jason Leving on. He will be coming on to speak about what's going on in Alberta right now.
He'll be our resident expert for sure.
Can you shut the hell up for a second,
brother? I'm giving you context. I'm supporting your positions here. I'm supporting your arguments.
And if you stop, I know you like the voice. I get it. I fully understand.
Yeah. Oh well, come on. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Go on.
Okay. Can I go now?
Yeah.
Now.
Go ahead.
So Jason Leving will be on the show next Tuesday. To give us a bit of an update as to what's actually happening in Alberta. Not what you're going to get in the mainstream media, really what's going on behind the scene. I'm hoping that he can talk about some of this stuff that he told me already. Because, man, we got some great. He has some really cool stuff coming up. So I want to make sure that he keeps up to date to what's going on in Alberta. So we'll do a deep dive on Tuesday, but he has agreed to become one of our reporter for Alberta. So as he's traveling Alberta, talking to who's who in politics and who's who in culture, he will show up on the show, even if it's 15, 20 minutes. Every time there's an update worth speaking about, he's going to show up and keep us updated. No, it's not me. I think it's Kris. You have a fan going on, right, Kris?
Nope.
Is there a
Because there's I don't know why I can't.
there's that
mute you
that
right
ticky
now.
noise there.
Yeah.
If
'Cause
Kris,
I'm like,
just mute your mic for a quick second, and we'll. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
there
so,
you go.
yeah.
Yeah, it is. So there is like on the click, click,
We
click,
can
click,
unmute
click,
now.
click,
I
click,
just-
click, so. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, is there a fan or anything going on around you?
No, I
Or
got nothing
even
here.
even a loose cable or something?
Because sometimes it stops and it goes. No, it's definitely a.
Okay, hold on a
might
second,
sound- Yeah, no worries. I'll finish the
Yep.
announcement during that time. So basically, Jason's gonna show up on Tuesday. Long conversation. He'll be here for 2.5 hours to talk to us about what's going on in Alberta. If you have questions, let us know. Make sure you come ready because Jason knows who's who in politics in Alberta. It's absolutely insane who he has. He has some stuff coming up that I'm not sure I can talk about. I wish I could. It's fucking cool. What he's going to do is absolutely cool. So not only is he going to come on Tuesday, but he also agreed to become our resident expert, if you will. So anytime there's something worth mentioning about Alberta, he'll show up for 15, 20 minutes, drop the knowledge, answer some questions, and then he'll leave. Also wanted to mention that Jason D, our friend of the show that always shows up on Wednesday, has agreed to kind of modify his role. So instead of spending 2.5 hours with us on Wednesdays, he's going to take a resident expert role for American politics. Since we're really moving towards Canadian, like this podcast is definitely for Canadians. Obviously, we want to talk to Americans too, but we will, like, it's really about Canadian politics and what influences Canadian politics. So he will take that role, similar to what I said about Jason Lavigne, where when there's something worth mentioning about American politics, Jason will be on the show 15, 20 minutes, do his thing, and then he'll leave. He'll be there to answer some questions. But Rob and I want to start building more of, we're the main people that are on the screen, but we want to bring other people to the show as reporters to tell us what's going on. If you're new to this, obviously you need to like, you need to comment, you need to subscribe. If you're on X, make sure to do like Kris does all the time. Not only do you need to like, comment, but you should reshare this stream. And if you're on Rumble, do the same. Like, comment, and repost this live so that we can reach more and more people. Because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is to build a community where political homeless like Kris can join the political orphans banner society.
Community.
Environment, community. Yeah. It's better than scheme.
Yes.
I wanted to remind everybody out there, if you want to support us, we have a membership arrangement. What was the term that we
option? Maybe membership option.
We have a membership option because we don't do money. We don't make any money doing this, but we would love to be able to do this full time. We'd like to have other people help us. Like, we'd like to have somebody running the show while we can just do what we're doing right now. But if you believe in what we're doing, please get a membership. And if it's as small as $2.99 a month, so that's not even a coffee. Like, that's literally a shitty Tim Hortons coffee. So for the price of one coffee, you could support us. But the really big thing that happens when you do support us is that you'll get access to the Discord server. So we have a Discord server that is for members only, but it's really to continue the conversation. So as you see right now, we already have a bunch of comments that we haven't gone to yet. Yeah. But we found that 2.5 hours is not enough. People want to continue talking about this. So we built a Discord server. You can have all the conversations that you want over there. There's no censorship. There's no nothing. I'm the one managing it. And if you know anything about me, I don't give a fuck. There's no political correctness in my bones. So that's what comes with the $2.99 a month. You get access to that. And as you'll see today, we will share your content, the videos that you propose, the articles that you'd like us to speak about. We will address them. All the subject basically that we will talk about before getting to the main subject of the day have all been proposed by our members on the Discord server, and we will always give you credit for it because technically you're like our researchers. I was thinking about that, Rob. They're technically like our researcher.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
It's all part. They're all part of the team for sure. It's like I think community is the right word. I think it just it fits as good as we can. And yeah, I think that's really exciting news about Jason. As Nico was saying, guys, like some things that it's just not our place to say, but he's definitely. I suspect within a few months he's probably going to be one of the biggest. He's going to be one of the biggest players in this space in Canada, just because he's big into the separatist movement. He's a lawyer by trade, so he's got that sort of background, and it sounds like he's going to tweak his podcast to be traveling around and talking to some of the biggest names in this space as well. So it's
politics. It's not just in space.
Yeah,
I can't tell what's coming.
I know, but
he didn't tell me I could. But
goddamn,
goddamn, motherfuckers moving up.
It's going to be a huge asset to the show to have him as a regular guest here. So I'll get to some of these questions.
Hold on. Let me
go ahead, Nico.
Misfit. You're absolutely right, bro. Not only do you pay us, but you're doing the work for us.
It is a scheme. It's a scheme.
But you know what, brother? You get to have your voice heard.
Yep.
That right there. We all have to admit that there's a little part of ourselves that likes to have recognition. And every time you share something that is going to be shown on the screen, on the show, I will give you credit for it. I will not be one of those assholes that takes credit for your work. Let's agree on that right now, okay? Okay, Misfit? So before you bitch, just understand that, yes, you pay us to do the work, but you'll get credit for it. Come on, man.
Yeah. You'll own nothing and you'll like it.
Exactly.
All right.
Let me ask the question of the day, guys, and then we'll jump right in. So
let's ask Kris the question of the day, and then we'll get to the questions.
Sounds good to me. So, Kris, tell us: do you think that religion has a space in politics, or are you tired of politicians pandering to religious groups?
I'd say yes to both. Is my audio better? Is that taken care of?
I think.
Yeah, there
is.
Okay.
No, I think it's good.
Okay. Yeah, I'd say
still a
yes
little
to
click,
both.
but I don't know if it's.
I don't think it's
bothering people.
I don't think it's enough. It's certainly less.
They'll tell
was.
us.
Yeah,
they're going to tell us if there's a
problem.
Right.
No, I think yes to both. I think that the values and principles that come with religious belief, in a country that is open and wanting to be inclusive in that sense, have a place. I think that, but the pandering side of it is something that I think is very alienating. I think you can find a balance there between recognizing that people have faith-based views, and that a lot of times I think that something's lost in the conversation because religion can be a very divisive topic, as we see on a daily basis. But I think that it diminishes the value of some of the principles and values that religious beliefs can bring to the table. I think when you get into the more of the zealot component, it can be a little bit too much for people, so you're alienating. And at the same time, I think that the pandering to it, I think, is disingenuous. As a former campaign manager and in politics, I found a lot that it was like in every election cycle, we go talk to all the religious leaders, but there's no dialogue in between, right? And that's what I was encouraging on saying, this dialogue should be continuous. You want to understand each individual community, their ability, what are their issues, what do they bring to the table, who are the people that are in the community that have influence, because you want to have dialogue. But I don't think you should get to the point where you feel that I think pandering is honestly insulting. I think I've met a lot of people from the religious communities like, yeah, you guys pop up every 4 years, but where are you in between then? That time period. So I think that it can break down relationships. So I think if you approach it from respect, understanding where the values align, but also, with our charter, which I could go into as far as the weaknesses in there, but I'm a firm believer that if you come to this country, that you should be able to practice your religion without persecution, as long as you're not harming anyone, right? 100%. Because every religion has, a percentage that is into the zealotry component. But you don't want to broad brush anybody. And I've met thousands of people from different religions in my life. And, I always come at it with a place of respect, the willingness to listen, but I've never pandered in that sense. Like I won't. Like I want to treat you as a human being. You are not your religion. Your faith-based values bring you to the table, but at the end of the day, you're still a human. And I think pandering is very, like I said earlier, disingenuous. It doesn't add to it turns people off within the religious community as well, too, that you just don't come across as though you actually care. You're just there, vote for me. And then you're gone for 4 years. So I think in the political realm, it does have a place, but I think right now it can get distorted and be more of a causation for division than bringing people together where you can possibly unite under common causes of values and principles. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, that's a great point. So just to for clarification, so that was your job. You were a campaign manager for political campaigns.
Yeah, I helped out campaigns on both sides. Like I've never been the only time you ever see a membership, it was for that 6-week period. When I was never, didn't matter to me what the color of your whatever color stripe you're wearing, if I was a friend of yours. And I have a skill set, I'm a community organizer by trade, and I had a lot of connections in communities, so I can build bridges for people in that sense, but I didn't say, oh yeah, I'm a liberal or I'm a conservative. It's like, no, I'm in the middle, and I'm trying to be friendly with everybody, on both sides. And most of the time they're friendly back to me. And since 2020, it's been before the pandemic, I probably would have been, I've always kind of, if I had to label myself, I'd say, okay, I have classical liberal views, but I also have traditional conservative views. And in the middle, I have some libertarianism that is kind of, the just leave me alone and, help your neighbors if they need help, but, provide opportunities. I don't view the government as I think it's a necessary evil. And I think that we're more on the side of having capital E as far as evil, as far as where we may be at today. But I never, just because of your political parties, because your religion, I don't come into a conversation with a preconceived notion of who you are or judgment as far as what this is going to look like. I want to learn from you. Hopefully you learn something from me. That's what being human's all about. Yep.
No, that's couldn't have said it better myself. So I'll just grab a couple of these questions because we're starting to get a little bit behind, and then we'll get into her. The new right says, hey, I believe that's your first time here commenting. I've actually seen you on X, but nice to see you here. Hopefully you stick around. Misfit, of course. Good morning, everyone. Robin says it's a good poll question. And Misfit answers.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
He says, yes, it is. Personally, I think laws are there for everyone to adhere to, and there should be no exceptions to laws because of religion. And just as I'm sort of scrolling down here, I can see there's going to be a great show. I think a really interesting topic. And I think there's going to be, I think there's some really interesting points that I'm seeing here as we'll get to that. But yeah, no, I'm excited. And that's a good point there, Misfit. Wise Guy says, hi all. On topic, my answer is yes, but only Islam. And its danger to Christian societies. Allowing it in Canada means we are okay with child brides and Sharia law, honor killing, spousal abuse, and rape. That is, you're coming in hot, no doubt. Probably
he always comes in. When's the last time Wise Guy came in with a soft fucking answer?
Probably a little stronger than I would say, but I can't disagree with the broad sentiment. Here's my take. As Kris was saying, yeah, of course, everyone has to. Have the right to practice your religion in your private spaces should absolutely be respected. And I'd march in the streets. I full disclosure, I grew up quite religious in a Pentecostal household, but I am, as of now, I guess my official term would be atheist. I don't necessarily like it because I think it implies you don't have any spiritual beliefs. And I do think there's something more. I'm just not convinced that any of these are the right answer. But we're also putting our head in the sand if we pretend that there's absolutely no difference between the average. Like, don't get me wrong, I've known lots of moderate Muslims, and some of them are, and they're great people, but there aren't Christians out there shutting down Bloor Street, downtown Toronto, praying, with these acts of dominance. There are not Christians out there beheading people because other people are mocking Jesus, and frankly, people are not being arrested. Especially in the UK for complaining about Christianity. So if we think that there's no difference whatsoever in the practice of religion in today's modern times, and this isn't anti-Islam and pro-Christianity. Christianity certainly has its violent past, if we look to the Crusades. But if we look at today in 2025, the practice of Islam and the average, there are far more extremists in the Muslim religion than there are in Christianity, and that's just a fact. There are moderates. I know that there are, but the moderates do not have the ability. Like, the moderates are not in control of as I see it, in Islam. And you see, you can see you see a lot of videos of like imams in the West, not even imams out there in the Middle East, imams in the West, in the UK, in Canada, and they're just preaching flat out hate. They are preaching down with Western society. They are preaching for women to be subjugated. I'm not saying all Muslims believe this, but some of the biggest and most prominent voices do. And that's a problem that we need to recognize.
The major difference is that none of Christianity calls for that. Like, you're talking about the Crusades, which were hundreds and hundreds.
Oh yeah, and I fully.
And they did not follow the Bible. They did not. Nothing that they did was for the Bible. Like, I'm not a fan of, as much as I am a Christian, I'm a Bible Christian. I believe what the Bible says, not what a pastor tells me, not what a priest in Catholic Church tells me. So as you see, the main subject of the day is the new Pope, and this is why I asked the question. But at the end of the day, today's Christians are not the ones doing exactly what you're saying. If you read the Quran, it talks about really fucked up shit like pedophilia. Like, that is okay in Islam. Like, if you look, that's what their prophet Muhammad did. So,
well, and it's part of the culture even today. Like, Iraq just lowered the age of marriage to 9 years old.
Let's just be honest that what you see on Bloor Street, for example, Bloor and Yonge, and what they keep on doing, they block the busiest arguably the busiest intersection in Canada. And they block it just because they can. This has nothing to do with religion. Like, practice the religion all you want. I really don't give a fuck. I couldn't give two shits what you do behind closed doors. I don't care. But this has nothing to do with religion, but everything to do with a show of force. That's what it is. Because we all know, if me and a bunch of my white friends would block Yonge and Bloor in Toronto, we'd all get fucking arrested. Like, I got a guy that I know,
and rightfully so, and so you should.
Sure. Like, all I'm saying is there's no consistency, but we need to stop being so fucking tolerant. Because in the name of tolerance. Because look at what happened to the UK, right? Chris, do you want to take some of those? Because we have a bunch of subjects. We can go into it more in detail in about half an hour or so when we run through some of the subjects that we had identified to speak about. But this was just a question of the day. We have a bunch of comments. So where do you want to go? You want to take some comments, or you want to jump right in?
I'll take a couple of them. Just I won't be able to take all, guys, but just as I scroll down, the ones that jump out, I will. Robin says, "Love you guys." The left brain and the right brain.
I think that's when we're talking about you being on top, me being on the bottom.
It was, yeah.
I think that's where the comment came from.
Yeah, it was. Misfit, this is a good comment. He says, a personal gripe I have is how the Sikhs can ride a motorcycle without a helmet. And I know there are some people who will be like, oh, who cares? It's a helmet, or how does it affect you? The fact of the matter is, unfairly or disproportionately applied laws creates a problem. It doesn't matter if it's a silly law. You cannot have, because what that's saying is there are certain religions that are favored over others, and you can't have that in a modern society.
Because I couldn't do that as a Christian.
No.
And you see, look, I'm a motorhead, so my helmet's right there.
Yeah,
not that I would not wear it, because you're a fucking idiot if you ride a motorcycle without a helmet. You're a fucking moron, because it will kill you eventually. Of course. It's just a matter of time. I've been in really bad situation. I've been off my bike. You need a helmet.
Yeah,
but you're absolutely right. It's like RCMP agents. Sikhs in the RCMP are capable of wearing their turban, but if I was a Christian in the RCMP, I'm not able to wear a cross on my uniform. What's the difference?
Favoritism, right?
Yeah.
And you just they're making it so much more complicated than it has to be. All you need to do is apply the law equally. That's really it. And in fact, in a multicultural society, that's the only way it can work. Chris, I want to get your take on this, just because I guess with your background, you've probably had to sort of get into negotiate with these different communities. But do you see a difference in the way today, say, certain religions are treated versus other ones?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you hit on the point there. The law needs to be applied equally. And I mean, again, it's like you can have respect for the religion. And with the gentleman with the Sikh situation there, don't ride a bike. Right?
Yeah, that's it, right?
To be making that exemption. And we can get into it's like, I'll always come down to, it's like, freedom of religion, practice your religion how you see fit. But when it starts to affect the larger community, then we have a problem as far as affecting local. And so even if you just break it down, he's not wearing a helmet, gets into an accident. And because he's not wearing a helmet, it costs us how much in healthcare, right? As well as the implications, and like you said, with the regards to, and I'll be honest, like I'm not, I don't like to put labels, you know, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. My relationship with the Creator is a private one, you know.
Mhm.
But at the same time, when I look at this disproportionate way, so we could even look at the convoy and how that was treated, not a religious thing, but we had people who were, you know, invoking their rights, so we can take a look at that. And we get this hammer coming down, and on the other side we see these big groups of people that are, like Nico says, it's a show of dominance, right? You have your temples, you have your places of worship, everyone has that right to do that, but when you start forcing it on the public is when you're going to create even more division than what the charters allow. You know, again, we can get into the complexities of the language of the charter, but I still think when you're imposing your religion on other people in the community, that's where the line needs to be drawn. It needs to be applied equally. You need to be able to practice, do what you want to do, but when you start forcing people to play a game, in a sense, that we're not all, you know, you're giving that favoritism to one.
We're all equal, but some religions are more equal than others.
That's
right?
the problem, right? And then we see, even like we don't in Canada right now, you know, over the past few years, we've seen a lot of church burnings. We don't see a lot of people being arrested for that. We don't see a lot of people being even talking about it, right?
Talking about it. But imagine if it was mosque burning.
It was mosques. Or Sikh temples, or, you know what I mean? Any religious denomination, synagogue.
And not to mention, but the reason the burnings happen is because of Trudeau's big mouth saying that they were massive graves of Native people that were found on their churches, and it turned out to be a fucking lie. There's no proof to quantify what he said, yet he never took it back. He never took accountability for the fact that those churches. Oh yeah, you know that those churches burned. Yep. They burned because of what he said. People were so pissed off.
Most people still don't know it. They still believe that. No. They still believe that many kids were murdered in residential schools.
Which is it is those mass graves do not exist. They couldn't be if they exist, they haven't been found, and Trudeau was full of shit. Mm-hmm. But he never took it back. But imagine if he said that about Muslims.
It would be arrested for hate speech. It'd be
it would be a very, very different one. You want to take some more before?
Yep.
Because, man, there is a bunch of them going on.
Robin says, nice to meet you, Eric. White guy, there are already Sharia zones all over Germany, France, and the UK where none of our laws are obeyed for religious reasons. This is a fact. This is not just a fact. And if you're on the left, if you tell people that on the left, they'll be like, they'll just dismiss it outright or call it racist. It's just a fucking fact. And if you agree, if you want that okay, I would disagree with that, but sure. But don't stick your head in the sand. Don't pretend it's not happening, because we know that it is. And if you ask many Muslims, I think the polling of like UK Muslims, it was like 65% in favor of imposing Sharia law on. If you did the same polling of Christians, do you believe that religious law should be some form of Christian religious law should be enforced on the rest of society? It wouldn't be anywhere close to that.
You know what? The only thing that you could really say that the Christians would want that's not there right now is abortion.
Sure.
So imagine,
and that's all like that's not Christian. But hold on. That's most religions.
No. But this is a very Christian thing. Like Islam is never going to talk against abortion because it doesn't need to talk about it within their own ranks. They don't do abortion. So if you're doing abortion, it's mostly Christians and Black women. Unfortunately, those are the facts. This is. Look at the facts and you will see that those numbers are real, but they don't give a fuck about us. Why the fuck would they care? If your goal is world domination, as per what Islam says, that everybody should be part of Islam, why the fuck would you stop other people from killing themselves? You would encourage them to continue doing it because they're taking care of the problem by themselves.
Yeah.
So, but imagine that a Christian would go in and just say, you know what? Fuck you, no more abortions. This is what I would want. But can you imagine the outrage if that's what happened?
Well, and
this is the thing, right? Comparing Sharia law for a Christian is for imagine that.
I know that there's no like necessarily equivalent, and I'm just saying some version of kind of.
No, but you don't need to, because it's understood. It's like 500 years ago, you wouldn't have had to speak about abortion because in a Christian, or 400 years ago when Canada was founded or Canada was started or invaded, however the fuck you want to put it, you didn't have to mention abortion because that was fucking understood that it is not something that we would do. unless unless the mother is at risk of dying. This is something I don't touch with a 10-foot pole because it's literally 0.5% of abortion. It's less than 1%. So we can
Leave
toss that
aside.
one and argue, but 99 to 95% of abortion are healthy. Like the baby's healthy and the mother's healthy. So, but imagine that we started pushing that tomorrow and say, you know what, fuck you, no more abortion. That would be the end of the world. But you have people openly saying Sharia law is okay and we want it. Oh, well, you know what? They're entitled to their opinion. It's
and
not a problem. Yet you look at the UK, there's at least 5 or 6 mayors of some of the biggest city in the UK that are Muslims.
It's crazy. It's crazy some of the stuff you see from out there.
Yeah. So shall we jump in? Because man, if we don't stop this, we're just gonna go on for 2.5 hours about this without ever touching any of the other subjects. So because we'll get back to it. I think we touched a portion of the subject we wanted. We
got into most of them, and we'll move on into the topics. But just kind of, I think one thing it's important to kind of keep stressing. You can't really think of Islam as just a religion. It is a political system, sort of in the guise of religion. And most Muslims will openly tell you they see themselves as Muslims first and foremost, no matter where they are, and it is often many of them think it's their duty to impose Sharia law. Like, that's not me saying these are terrible people. Some of them are, of course, just like they're terrible people of any religion. They genuinely believe that it's for the best. That is a good thing. That doesn't mean that we should accept that. The fact that they may be thinking that it's actually a good thing is irrelevant. It's just the question is, do we want that kind of law in our society or not? Are we a secular society or are we not? And if we are, then we simply cannot allow that. We cannot allow religious laws to take over. And just very much before, so we're going to go in, but I do want to show one thing because it's relevant to this topic, like very relevant. But there was a guy who just showed up, he's facing, he burned a Quran the other day in the UK.
Oh, how dare he burn a book?
Yeah, and he has been charged with harassing the religious institution of Islam. Think about this. This is in the UK, a Western society which has where officially blasphemy laws are illegal. They are not on the books, but now this is just a blasphemy law out through the back door. And we need to be very clear that this is happening. People are being charged. Like, it is burning the Quran offenses. I have no doubt that it is, but that's fucking irrelevant. The point of freedom of religion means that also freedom from religion. I am not obligated to respect your holy books. Now, I may choose not to, and there may be other consequences. Perhaps I lose my job if my boss doesn't like that, and that's perfectly reasonable and fine. As you said yesterday, Nico, freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences of that speech. Nope. But we're getting into some very, very scary shit here when we are charging people in the West with harassing Islam.
Yeah, but it can't be that surprising because you look at what's going on right now in the UK where you have thought police that are arresting people for praying in front of a abortion clinic. They're not doing anything. They're across the street just standing there and silently praying in their head for the lives of the babies.
And he got arrested.
Of the preborn. She got arrested. The other guy got arrested. Yet I have multiple videos of just Muslims on massive speakers with their microphone preaching in the streets. It's not, the thing is, however you feel about religion is fine, but treat everybody equally. That's always going to be my main.
That's the only way you can do it. It's the only way.
But stop being so pretentious and believing that there's no difference between the way we treat religion. Like, it's bullshit. Like,
it is bullshit.
You cannot really believe that unless you've never walked the streets or unless you just listen to CBC. Like, turn off CBC and start looking at other type of content that's out there to try to see what's actually going on, because it's happening everywhere. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Montreal, right next to where I am. It's happening in Toronto. It's happening in Vancouver. It's happening in Alberta. Priests are getting arrested for speaking against drag queen hour in fucking public libraries. $100,000 in court fees up to now and lawyers' fee. Yet Derek Reimer is still getting fucking arrested on this shit. So let's start taking some of those topics of today, because this is one of the problems between you and I.
This topic is gonna.
This is something I can go on for 10 fucking hours, and I don't have that much more hair to lose. Okay, let's
all right. Let's get into her.
So there's a few things. Again, the next subjects all come from our Discord server. So if you're new to this, because I see there's a bunch of people that follow Kris that are looking at the show for the first time, so I'm going to steal some of your thunder, Kris. But if you don't know what we do, I'm a conservative righty. I'm a conservative Christian. Rob is a liberal. And every single day we go Monday to Friday, 2.5 hours a day, we talk about what's trending in the news. And we always look at it from a left and a right perspective. But what we really want to do is engagement. Like, we have so much comments. We get hundreds and hundreds of comments every day. And that's the whole point, is to have we want to be able to talk to you. We want to be able to know what you guys think. So if you've never seen us before, make sure to like, make sure to reshare this stream. Join us on YouTube. Join the community, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. We're political orphans, because as a conservative with a small c, the Conservative Party does not represent me. They're way too fucking left for my liking. And Rob is a liberal, but the Liberal Party is way too woke for him. So where the fuck do we fit? We don't know. We're political orphans, and that's why the name of the show.
We don't fit anywhere except for here.
No,
and that's
except for here.
Yeah.
So Rob and I decided to create this to have a community. We used to only have the 2.5 hours every day to talk, but now we created Discord server that's separated from here, that is uncensored, unfiltered. Not only that, but it's 24 hours a day. So the conversation you're seeing now can be continued over there. Mm-hmm. But there's a catch to it. You need to become a member of this channel. It's $2.99 a month. It's not even the price of a coffee. So you have absolutely no excuses. And this allows us to remove the trolls. Like, by association, trolls are not going to give us money to come troll in our stuff. So we keep that clean, as in we keep it open to real discussions, because the discussions we're having here is the same discussions that we're having on Discord. The advantage of being part of the Discord, though, is, as you will see right now, is most of the subject, if not all the subjects today, come from recommendations of the people on Discord. And not only is it their content, not only could you pay us to do our work for us in exchange, we will give you credit for it. Because at the end of the day, if you want to participate, you want to be part of a community that is trying to do something different that does not exist right now, this is the place for you. So
yeah, it's I'll just add on to what you're saying there very briefly.
You had to, huh? Yeah.
Well, obviously, I mean, I gotta be me. Just because we when we started this, it wasn't meant to be just a podcast. It wasn't meant to be a community. And as Nico was just saying, with the Discord server, you guys really get to influence content in a way that I don't really see it on any other show. You're going to get to have your say there. I mean, obviously we're the hosts and we'll be kind of the face of it, but the community is much more about much more than just me and Nico. If you do agree that there's an important there's a space for this kind of a show, for this kind of discourse, then that's how the best way you can support us is become a member and then join us over there on the Discord. So with that, let's get into her. What are we going to start with?
45 minutes in.
Not too bad,
Hey,
actually.
Bumpy Johnson, what's going on? He has one of the best names on the internet.
Yeah,
absolutely love that name. Good for you, bro. And you know what? Let me just say what Joe said here. Joe Stradamus said, also, religious cult influencing governments are no better than the gender cult influencing government.
Could not agree
we need
more.
A reality now party. That is a great fucking name.
Joe Stradamus, yeah. I mean, yeah,
R&P, bro.
So it's funny because as I said, I'm an atheist, and I think when I was younger, I might have been more of a militant atheist. I think I would have said things like, if only religion was gone, then all the problems would be gone. And now I realize how naive. I realize how naive that was. There's something in the human condition that requires that sort of spiritual belief, and I feel it. Even though I said I'm an atheist, and I think Kris, you sort of probably feel the same, or it sounds like you did when you were describing yourself. Yeah, you may not necessarily believe in exactly the answers that are given to us, but you have that sense of there's something more, there's spirituality. And it seemed like what happened is as we became more secular in the West and turned away from organized religions, what happened is new ones sprang up. And so now you've got these new, postmodernist woke religions. But if you look at the gender thing, it's absolutely religion. It's got the religious mantras that everyone chants and repeats. Trans women are women. It's got all the cultural aspects of a religion.
Rob, you can't go there. You cannot mention that part because you're going to go down a rabbit hole. You can't. We need to stop. I know this Kris is talk about men's rights. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. If you talk LGBTQ trans, Rob is gone.
I can't go down this rabbit hole because I never leave this rabbit hole. I exist entirely in this rabbit.
You've penetrated that rabbit hole a long time ago, and
that's right.
You feel very good in there.
I think it's important to note, though, that it is very religious. Like, I didn't finish my social work degree because of it. Like, it has the same tenets, the same and the level of infiltration that we see into the schools and all this stuff, and the fact you can't talk about it because of the hissing, like the extreme way things are going, and when it's almost like the inversion of reality in regards to you're saying, hey, we shouldn't be doing mutilation. All these other countries, you're pointing at countries saying they're doing these genital mutilations. And
meanwhile, we're doing the same thing, but it's the right one. It's the good one. We do the good mutilations over here.
Right. And then you see the parental rights. There's so many things that come from it that just, to me, it screams insanity. I think that gender dysphoria is a real thing. I think that when you have a youth that's growing up, that they're confused. I don't think the schools should be implanting these seeds. I don't think you should be keeping the parents out. It's very insidious the way this has come. I know you don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but we could probably spend a couple hours talking about it.
I couldn't agree more.
You're just like Rob when it comes to that. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but let me go down that rabbit hole.
Wow,
I will.
Sometimes you have to.
To me, guys, like the youth and like I'm a 7-generational thinker as far as like I have some indigenous blood, but I'm not saying, hey, I'm indigenous. I got Irish, I got Scottish, I got Norwegian, I got American blood, but I'm a Canadian. But I'm 7-generational, and I think that what we're teaching the young kids, they need to be fostered, they need to be encouraged to critically think, they need to be able to be kids. And I think with what's happened over the last 5 years, the amount of trauma, I think it makes kids very susceptible to being
those kind of messagings.
100%. Yeah, and you can't undo a lot of this stuff, and so I will always fight and oppose it vehemently. But at the same time, you're dealing with a very cult-like mentality on the other side that doesn't want to hear that, you speak it and they come after you. So but we can't be scared of it. We got to be able to say, hey, this is what's going on, and I don't agree with it. And you got to stand up for those that don't have a voice.
100%. Northern Hillbilly. Whoa. Who are you? Who are you? And what did you do with Northern Hillbilly? Because this is like 100% difference in tone and tenure than when he first came in.
Just so you know, Kris,
this is a good comment.
He came in a few days ago and all caps comments. Bah, bah, bah. You could feel the bah, bah, bah on the keyboard.
He came in hot.
On YouTube, you can time out people. So I timed them out for 5 minutes. I explained on screen what we were trying to do here. And then ever since then, he's like,
that's a good comment.
Dropping some good comments.
That's a great comment. Yeah, that's a great comment. And I think one thing that I found so interesting since we started doing this show, shock and awe, is that some people will come in, and I don't want to say troll, because that's got a negative connotation, but they do come in hot, as you said, all caps. And I feel like normally social media, especially in the political area, trains people to be that way. And a lot of people will come in here, and then when we kind of just say, no, I mean, that's not how we do things around here. Almost everybody kind of just changed tones, like, oh shit, yeah, no, I don't have to be like that. I don't have to be angry here. And it's a really refreshing thing.
No, that's true. But I love how at least he admits to it, and he's like shock and awe.
Yeah, he came in hot. Yeah, I mean, like in Hillbilly's defense, this is how most discourse is. But this space was created to get away from that.
Yeah, agreed. So talking about religion, I think this is another source of religion outside of formal religion, outside of the LGBTQ/trans agenda or woke ideology.
Yep.
Climate change being one of them. I believe climate change is on the same realm as religion, and
it's absolutely got religious aspects for sure.
Oh yeah. So this is one of the subjects that was brought up by Nick on the Discord server yesterday.
Yep.
She remember when Remember when Carney said this. Listen to this. And this is just a couple of months ago, right? Video's loading. Should have loaded.
Objective is to have in place the information, the tool.
Sorry, this is not a few months ago. This is 4 years ago. This is Carney speaking about climate change. He repeated it, but I just want to put some perspective, as in he's been talking about this for at least 4 years. Tell me that does not sound religious.
Our objective is to have in place the information, the tools, and the markets so that the private financial system can take climate change into account with every financial decision. In fact, that it does take it into account. So in other words, when making a loan, making an investment, managing risk, you consider issues of climate change just like you consider issues of the creditworthiness of the company or where interest rates are going or future technologies. And so what we do is we work with the private sector to develop that information, those tools, those markets. And then through that process, we then get the public sector, the central banks, the governments, the standard setters around the world, the authorities, the IMF, others, to put in place a formal framework around those once we know that the markets are going to work. And we're doing it on an expedited basis for Glasgow a year from now.
And I want to put this into perspective because a lot of Canadians don't realize that not only was our prime minister on the board of the WEF, not only was he on the board of Brookfield, a massive investment firm that has money in small houses, in prefab house, and it's a total coincidence that he's pushing that shit right now.
Yeah.
But he is also the former governor, Bank of England, as indicated on CNN right now. But one of the things that people don't understand is that he was the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance. So this dude, if you thought he might be a globalist, you're right. He absolutely is a globalist. But why am I bringing a video from 4 years ago? Well, let me show you one more video, and then I'll explain to you. Do you remember when Carney said that nobody would do business with us if we did not put a price on carbon? Do you remember when he said that? And that we're talking about a month ago. That was during his campaign. I'm not even sure it's a month ago. So just to show you guys I'm not a fucking liar, let me play the video right here.
One of the requirements is to diversify trade to the European Union. Guess what one of the requirements is to diversify trade to the United Kingdom? Guess what one of the requirements will be to diversify trade to emerging Asia? Is to have a form of price on carbon. So we are able to think one step ahead. Guess what?
So he said, hold on. Keep your thoughts for this one. Why am I talking about this? Because of what the UK did with the US yesterday. Did you see the massive deal that they signed?
I haven't seen the specifics, no.
No, I'm just going to present. I got a super quick video about this, but we have a prime minister that's been telling us that in order to do business with Europe, the UK, and emerging Asia, we need a price of carbon. Yet, the UK just signed a massive deal with the US, and guess what? The US don't fucking give a shit about carbon taxes.
The US and the UK have finally reached a trade deal, or trade framework. From the back of the queue under Barack Obama to front of the queue under Donald Trump, post-Brexit Britain has finally secured a trade pact with the US. Vindication, perhaps, of Prime Minister Keir Starmer's softly approach to the US president. Now, full details of the pact are yet to be negotiated. There's still ambiguity, for example, over what happens to metals tariffs and how or whether the UK will alter its digital services tax. But what we do know so far is that the UK will fast-track American goods through its customs process, and it's going to reduce barriers on agricultural, chemical, energy and industrial exports. Meanwhile, UK manufacturers will be allowed to send 100,000 cars into the US under a 10% tariff. That's less than half of what they faced when Trump raised tariffs at the start of April, but it's 4 times what they faced before that. And that raises the bigger question. Is this just one step forward after 2 steps back?
You know what's brilliant about this, and I'll leave you at that, is our prime minister is telling us that we need to consider climate change in every single financial decision, that the UK, Asia will not do business with us unless we tax carbon. Yet they just signed a massive deal with the US on every fucking thing that seems to produce carbon. Everything they mentioned there is like a massive amount of pollution. So is
nobody
climate
cares.
change going to become, but is it going to become just like how we stood up to Trump, right?
Yeah.
Is this the next step? So he stood up to Trump like a little bitch, and he looked like a little bitch with Trump. Now he's gonna have to back that down, and he's gonna back down with Alberta too. This is not looking good for Mini Carney.
Yeah, Kris, you give us your take, and then I'll go after you.
Well, I think it's interesting to say because it's like we're in a bubble here with our media and stuff. Like they're so easy for them to control narratives, right? So
100%.
they could literally pull it off. With one hand, they're doing one thing, and on the other hand, they're telling us the general, CBC, CTV Global, they're just parroting whatever the government wants them to say. So you could literally have a good chunk of Canadians believing in climate change, and at the same time, when it comes down to that, I think it's a grift. I think it's a scam. I think it's a control grid that they want. I think that they're going to manipulate and create the narrative that they need to be able to implement these things, whether it's SDGs, ESGs, all these things, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is just one of them, right? And so when you see we have a prime minister that never had to disclose his assets, we know he's a major player. He was a central banker here, Bank of Canada, Bank of England, UN, WEF, and ironically, none of this stuff is brought up by the Conservative Party, our opposition. That can kind of be
yeah, that's weird, right?
Well, is it? I'm
controlled opposition.
I'm not even on the fence anymore. It's controlled opposition in my eyes. I think that it's the silence is what is the most important part of any controlled opposition. So they're lining us up for this, and that's what's not that it scares me. I think that Canadians need to feel it because they're in a bubble, and I feel for them. I have empathy and I have compassion. But so many heads are in the sand where they don't know, and they just figure they want to hand their power over to this guy's going to be the next savior. This guy's going to be the next savior. Well, they don't realize what's going on is that we're on that train to Agenda 2030 or 40. Again, I'm going to be loose with terms here. We know there's a change happening in our country, but we're so unaware. So I think Carney could literally, I think Carney could pull it off. We're on one side. He's making different deals with the states, but he's still. I'll be honest with you guys. I think that Mark Carney and Trump have known each other for years. I think they understand the game that we see with Brookfield and Kushner and stuff. So we see this. A lot of it is
there a Brookfield Kushner connection?
Well, Carney's company helped out Jared Kushner's company.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so there's business deals in the business world. There's no way Carney and Trump haven't crossed paths. And then we see that one specific instance with a big piece of real estate, 100-year lease, just out of the ordinary as far as how things normally work. But at the same time, the narrative control components we have in Canada, they can say whatever they want with elbows up. That's the scariest part. It's like, am I scared of my government? Well, no, I don't like what they're doing, but I'm also not fearful because it's just not healthy to be fearful. It's not healthy to be angry. What worries me is their ability to activate the public behind something. So if you have the same kind of energy that we see with the woke community, if you have the same people activated in regards to a climate change or climate crisis, things in this country could turn overnight very quickly. And the rest of the world wouldn't even really know because our media, they do their thing. If you're not in Canada, you look at us and you see the elbows up and you're kind of like, Canada's kind of, what's wrong with Canada, right? Everyone has this impression that, oh yeah, we're these nice, sorry, we're out and about, we're doing our thing. But at the same time, I don't think most of the population realize how much of a bubble we're in. So Carney can go to Europe, do whatever he wants. He can go to the States, do whatever he wants, come back here, scream climate, allocate all this money, no different than COVID. It's like COVID part 2, as far as we have an emergency, here's a ton of money, and we're going to borrow money so that generations to come are going to be in servitude as soon as they're born. I think Poli did say during the campaign that every child is born is like $91,000 in debt as far as what they owe. But nothing's ever taken seriously, and their ability to run roughshod over budgetary issues, allocations, without any scrutiny, without any accountability. In 10 years of Trudeau, not once did the Conservatives hold anyone to account. We never saw anybody thrown in jail, arrested, even brought to committee. Some of these people should have. And when they come to committee, like Freeland, where's this $2 billion? She gets upset with, how dare you challenge me on this kind of thing? It's like, there's no accountability.
Look within yourself.
Look within yourself. Yeah.
Look within yourself, Kris.
Yeah.
You shouldn't ask those questions. Those are dangerous questions. Look,
no,
but that's what
Carney need Disney Plus. Do you really
not remember?
Yeah.
Do you not know where that comes from? It's Carney that said that to a reporter when he got
to Rosemary Barton.
Exactly, Rosemary.
Was that Rosemary Barton that asked that?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
I rewatched it.
Because she since then she's just definitely jumped on the bandwagon. I guess she had gotten a talking to after that. We don't ask real questions. Yeah,
don't forget who feeds you.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what she was told, right?
Yeah, exactly. And she clearly Yeah, yeah. I don't. I mean, to talk to reference the clip that you played, I have no idea how no one pushed back on the absurd comment that we need to have a price on carbon in order to trade with other countries. Like, not even woke Europe give like they may have their own woke policy about carbon, but there's literally nobody who's demanding other countries to have. But he also said fucking China. China, like, you think China gives two shits about if Canada has a price on carbon? No. They will sell to whoever the fuck buys their shit, just like any country in the world, because all that nonsense, it stops at the border. With regard to,
but hold on, but before you go, I got one more I want to play, because if you think that's crazy, I found a video again proposed on Discord by Nick. It connects directly to this. It's Greenpeace co-founder and his opinion on climate change. This kind of blew my mind, because we all think about Greenpeace as those climate change pusher, right? They're all part of the agenda. This is Dr. Patrick Moore, and an interview that he made, I think it was last year, and what his thoughts on climate change are. And damn, this might blow your mind. If it doesn't, well, no, you know what? Just listen to the guy and tell me what you think afterwards.
One of my missions is to turn on its head the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant and somehow dangerous, when in fact it is the most important nutrient for all life on Earth, and without it, this would be a dead planet. So I say not only is carbon dioxide good, it is essential, and it's a good thing that we are putting some more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, because it was running low before we came along.
CO2, we know its benefits for plants, but it is a known greenhouse gas, and we're pumping too much of it in, leading to global warming.
Well, actually, it may be a known greenhouse gas, but it's not known how strong it is in terms of changing the Earth's temperature. And so far in this century, there has been zero warming from a statistically significant basis, and the UK Met Office says so. Yet 1/3 of all human CO2 emissions have been put into the atmosphere in the last 18 years. So it doesn't look like a lockstep causal relationship between increasing CO2 and warming of the Earth.
Are you seriously suggesting we should be pumping more stuff in, polluting the Earth more, building more coal-fired power stations, just so we can make sure that the CO2 levels are good?
No, I'm not, because we're putting plenty of CO2 into the atmosphere. We don't need to do it this quickly, but if we bring it up to a higher level than it is today, we will get immediately an increase in the growth of crops and trees, which is not a bad thing. In the long run, though, it doesn't matter if we bring it down quite a bit. And so that's why I'm supportive of nuclear energy and of natural gas. This tendency to go in the rich countries to wind and solar is a giant waste of money. Those wind farms will rust in place, and there is no fun to decommission them when they either wear out or we decide how ridiculous it is to spend so much money for so little electricity that isn't even reliable.
What are you saying about energy policy now, to the ideas of decarbonization to cut? Is everyone wrong?
Yes, they're wrong if they are actually basing their energy policy on decarbonization. They're not wrong to base their energy policy on cost effectiveness, on pollution control, which is why moving from coal to gas makes sense if you have it. But India has coal, and India has 300 million people with no electricity. What do we expect them to do? Of course they're going to build coal plants, but India is also building a lot more nuclear plants than the UK is right now, and it doesn't have the emissions of a coal plant. And China is building huge hydroelectric dams, which don't have the emissions of coal plants. So many of these countries are doing their bit without wasting all this money on wind and solar energy, which is unreliable and prohibitively expensive in the long run.
Why is this consensus out there?
Look, if we had definitive proof that CO2 was causing serious problems and we could prove it, don't you think they would write that down on a piece of paper somewhere so people could read it? They don't have definitive proof, period, in science. I'm a student of the philosophy and history of science, and I know that the scientific method has not been applied in such a way as to prove that carbon dioxide is causing the Earth to warm.
Do you think in a few years, say 50 years from now, people go, that was a really stupid period in our history when we tried to change all our energy policies to cut this gas?
I am firmly of the belief that the future will show that this whole hysteria over climate change was a complete fabrication.
co-founder of Greenpeace.
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly it's interesting. I mean, I guess his history there gives him a lot of credibility here. I just want to go back to this comment here from Misfit, just because it basically agrees with you guys and probably most here. I forget words. I don't even need to find it. It just said, I think climate change is a hoax. I don't necessarily think it's a hoax. I think that there is warming, and I think that on some level CO2 probably causes it. What I think is the hoax part is I think the consequences or the potential risks are being gravely exaggerated, and it's being very clearly done for political and economic gain by certain people. I think the worst case scenarios are almost certainly not true. And I think what may have been perhaps an actual concern is being extremely overblown to make a few people very, very rich.
What do you think, Kris?
I can agree.
Yeah, kind of with what Misfit says here, and I'll let you go ahead, Kris. But what Misfit says is pretty much how I agree. Yes, there's warming. No, I don't think it's as serious as they say, and absolutely they've weaponized it.
Right.
See, you know the worst part is that this is actually inaccurate. It is not warming, and I picked up one of this book. I've read this years ago. It's obviously it's mirrored, but it's by a climatologist. He's from Alberta, actually, called Dr. Tim Ball. Human caused global warming, the biggest deception in history. But he goes through the IPCC, the numbers that most climate change pushers are going to use. He shows how they're not taking they're not recording the data properly, and they're using it to their own agenda. So, Kris, go for it.
Yeah, I think that I'm not a scientist. Right? Again, as far as knowing the details and what is actually happening, my intuition tells me that this is just being exploited as a mechanism of control. So wealth transfer and control is kind of what I see. Absolutely. For me, Gen X, growing up and having all the freedom that we had, I had this mentality as far as this. I'm a sovereigntist, I'm not a white nationalist or whatever. I don't like throwing labels on myself, but I see it being used as a tool to break down borders under the guise of globalization. And none of us win as far as those that are for freedom of religion, sovereignty of the individual, free speech, all of these other things. I just see it as being used as a linchpin as far as how do we get into creating a narrative where we need to be living in 15-minute cities. The only way that the UN can accomplish their 17 goals is by having that champion, that one issue that they can hammer on as far as why we need to give up our rights, why we need to give up our freedom for the greater good. Nowhere in history has that turned out well for people like me and other people that are saying, hey, we all have value. We all have something to contribute to society, and freedom of speech, freedom of movement, all these other things are what make us human. We're not meant to be put in cages. I firmly believe that. And I see that the way that they're weaponizing it, like that one individual said, they're weaponizing it to create fear. And when human beings are in a fear response, they want to make that go away. Right. So, I'll give up my rights. I don't mind. I'm in a 15-minute city. I'll show my papers to leave and explain to some government municipal official that I'm going camping, or I want to go hiking today, and I need permission from you to do that. No, get back to work. None of your business where I'm going. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm not, I understand the laws, but I don't want to be put in a cage, and I don't want to be allocating billions, trillions of dollars that I know is going to be going to this, whatever, if it's a parallel economy, I have no idea. China is going to make a killing if we go windmills and solar panels and all this other stuff, right? Oh, yeah. Who's the biggest producer of that stuff? So whether they care if there's a carbon tax or not, well, I think they do, right? If we have policies that align for them to mass export all this stuff, while they're mocking us, going, look at those dumbass Canadians, they're going along with it, but because we are in such a controlled environment here, we're like a test subject. It's almost like the Commonwealth countries are like the test subjects for all this kind of stuff. Yep. What can we do to the population? How easily are they manipulated? And I think a large portion of the population would say, we're coming into arson season, fire season, where we can have these things manufactured, and the public is probably going to, run into the cage and say, yeah, I want the safety and security of a 15-minute city. Why wouldn't I want to be 15 minutes from a hospital or all these kinds of things? But you don't realize what you're giving up in that process. And that is yourself. You're conforming under a banner of community, the greater good, and you're losing yourself in the process. So I'm going to strongly oppose all of it, unless you can provide me with the data. And even still, what is reasonable as far as what expectation of me. And when I think of me, I'm thinking of everybody else's life as far as how much am I supposed to change when I still see you guys flying everywhere. I still see your
Yeah. We have to eat crickets. We have to eat crickets while these motherfuckers are flying the private jet all over. That's the grift. That's where that yeah.
And that's like the exploitative, the predatory nature of this. Well, if we can get them on one thing, and so you have all the hedge fund, you have all of these. You have the bankers, right? You got all the rich guys thinking these dumbasses, they're going to do whatever we want. Can we get them to eat bugs? The pandemic hit, use a glory hole. They're trolling us as far as what is out there. And so as far as me saying, do I know exactly what's happening? No, but I can see the path we're heading on as far as what they're expecting us to give up. And a lot of people will, not realizing that you are condemning future generations to living in these digital technocratic systems that don't allow for freedom of expression, freedom of growth. Like I'm worried about that more than anything as far
freedom
as
of speech. Freedom of speech is number one.
Number one.
If there's one thing we all agree between Rob and I is freedom of speech is number one. But I wanted to re-show this. I'm not going to say it out loud because this is the type of shit that's going to get me in trouble on YouTube. But pretty much what Joe Stradamus is saying there, when it first happened 5 years ago, you know the first thing that came to mind? This is a test. They're trying to see how we will behave. And guess what? The indoctrination process that we've been going through for 7 years has worked. Because to me, there's no difference. There's no difference to me between the two. That's right there. So, Joe, I don't know if you're asking the question or you're saying it out loud, but I agree with this. It's a fucking test. And guess what? We fucking failed.
And because, I think just to add to that briefly is that when people say, what was the point of COVID? It's like, the infrastructure is now in place for the next thing, right? They need the justification to allocate public funds to develop digital infrastructures, passports, all this other stuff, right? So at any point in time, whether we're talking CBDCs, digital IDs, the underlying thing is, okay, what did we learn from it? All that stuff's still there. We funded it. So at any point in time when the crisis comes along, you flick that switch and you don't have to go through it again. So, but it was a huge test. And a lot of
And for YouTube purposes, Kris has no fucking clue what he's talking about. You should endorse vaccination. COVID was real.
Get on your 8th jab.
If you haven't received your 8th jab, you're full of shit and you don't understand science because science has been settled.
The science is settled.
I said it.
It's my personal opinion. And
Yeah, I think I like Joe's comparison to both climate and COVID. I think in some ways I think it makes sense to me because I do believe both things. Like all great hoaxes or grifts, there's a kernel of truth in there. There's something like COVID was a real virus, of course, but then they take it and they fucking extrapolate all kinds of things. They make it much worse than it is in the minds of the public. Make people scared, and then you can. Once people are scared, they will agree to whatever that you tell them will protect them.
Yeah.
You just look at what Carney did for his whole campaign. He built fear against Trump, saying that he was the worst thing since the devil. Elbows up, started the movement. Hey guys, we're going to protect each other. He goes to the White House, basically blows him on camera. Like he literally gave him a blowjob in front of everybody, probably funneling the balls onto the table.
I hate my vivid imagination. It's like it's too quick. It's in there. The image is there. Thanks.
It could be a lot worse. Did you not see him wipe down his mouth before he came on camera?
Yeah. What would say? He's elbows up.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying. That's the reason why. JD
Vance and Donald Trump. Yeah, exactly. Misfit says, sure, it's a real virus, but now classed with the common cold. Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, the flu is a real virus too. We certainly don't shut down the world for the flu.
I got some friends of mine back in March 2020 when this first started hitting the news. Pick up the phone. I call a couple of buddies of mine, a doctor and a nurse. You know what they both told me? They're like, we've been dealing with this for 3-4 months already. And you know what it's going to become? A common cold. It's going to reappear every now and then. We're just going to learn to live with it, and that'll be the end of the day. That was March 2020. I was like, interesting. And just for the people out there, if you look at the face diapers that they wanted everybody to wear, the filter is bigger than the size of the virus. I discovered that in March 2020, and I was like, man, people are falling for this shit. The only thing I should have done is create phase diapers and market them, because people that did make a fucking killing with it. That's the only thing I should have probably done. But outside of that, it was
Big mask.
to me, it was all a test. It was all a test to see believe where the virus comes from, that it was engineered, it was not, it's natural, whatever. I don't even want to debate you on it. But tell me that it was not a very good learning experience for the people in power to see how we would behave. They know a lot about us. That is not necessarily good. I'm not too happy that 91% of Canadians got vaccinated and something along 80% of Americans have at least one.
So
those numbers are insane to me.
I'm going to take a slightly different angle than that. Because I think if that's what they did, and I agree with that, they probably did. I think they miscalculated, because I think it's going to be a lot. I think people do learn. I know my eyes are open about this kind of stuff in a way that necessarily wasn't in 2018, and I think it's going to be a lot harder to pull that kind of shit again if they want to do it again. So maybe they wasted don't get me wrong, there will always be a large number of sheep out there who will always run to safety, but there definitely are people whose eyes are open about this that were not before. So if they were trying to do a test run, I think they might have used up some of their powder.
And this is where you and I are going to disagree, because what he's writing right there, I cannot say it on YouTube without getting in trouble, but I agree with that 1,000,000%. Because if you look at what the WEF, the WHO have been pushing since the 80s, what their main goal is when it comes to the world population, what they did there, and you're starting to look at the side effects of that, they are getting closer and closer to their goal. So I agree with Northern Hillbilly 100%. The virus was not the goal. What came from the virus was the goal. And I agree with you 1,000%. But again, see, this is my tinfoil hat. There you go. Hey,
yeah, I think you're right. I think that it's like they don't get this, and I kind of agree with both of you here. I think you don't get this kind of opportunity. I'll be careful with my language. You don't get this kind of. I even I used to be a lead hand for infection control at a hospital. So and I put my opinion on it, and it affected somebody's YouTube. They got
really? Eh?
Yeah, so I'm going to ride that line there, but I agree with both of you in that sense of, what happened and doing it again. You're not going to have that same kind of compliance. I fully agree with Rob there. And then with what Nico's bringing up there, I do agree, and I think that there's the primary objective. And then there's all of the underlying components when it comes to, we got this, but we also get this, and this, which is the insidious nature of what occurred over the last 5 years, as far as everything being done behind the scenes. But the brazenness of the stuff that was being done publicly is where I was kind of like, hold on a sec here. I honestly, I woke up in March, not March. I guess it was like, at first, first couple weeks, you're kind of like, okay, what's going on here? And then you're kind of like, something feels off, the daily fear. It's like, why are you doing this to the public? It makes no sense to me. You're putting people into an anxious state. This is not, anybody who knows, this is not how you handle an emergency, right? And normal people, right? And then you get to that point where you're kind of like, where is this leading? And then I felt like the whole world was inverted. Did I get dropped into a parallel, Earth 616?
It felt that way, eh? It really felt that way.
Yeah. And the division and the harm that was caused, and it's never been addressed from either side. Like politically, it's like people say, oh, you can't say this, you can't say this. The media will turn apart. It's like, so all these people that were harmed, trauma on both sides. It's, again, some people, were in there and they went in through the. You can call it mass formation, you can call it whatever you want, but you put them in a trauma state and they made decisions that they probably wouldn't make had they not been in a traumatic state. So I don't really like to label people. Some of the people that I'm sure wanted me in a camp for the decisions I made. I put them in a different category, but those, most people were just trying to do what they thought was right for the basis of their community. But there are things that were done to the kids with I don't want to get into the details because I don't want to affect your channel, but the amount of trauma obviously has a post-traumatic stress effect. And for all of our politicians to be like, oh, it's no big deal. I'll just keep collecting my 250 grand, give myself a raise. I'm not going to talk about it because if I talk about it, then it acknowledges wrongdoing. But if you don't talk about it, then resources can't be made available on the mental health side, the ability to help people cope so that the people that you attacked, their early childhood development, don't grow up into being people that are unstable, and so to dismiss them is like re-victimizing them. And so I'll leave it there. But again, that's kind of what keeps me going on X, and with my page is kind of like, hey, nobody gets left behind in this. Like, I see you, you have value, but our politicians and our infrastructure, our bureaucracy won't say that. And I think that's just one of the most telling signs that we're dealing with something very insidious here in government, that they can just view Canadians as disposable. And that's kind of why I fight every day. I'll leave it there. But yeah, I'll watch my language with regards to the YouTube side of things.
But the thing is that it's not just, yes, the government has a role to play in this situation. The people at B has a massive role to play in what happened. But at the same time, you had the choice. I chose not to. I chose to stay pure blood. But I lost everything. I lost my career. My family don't talk to me. I have lost most of my friends. I had to go move and live in the fucking woods for 2.5 years. Like, I'm an engineer by trade. I wasn't fucking working at McDonald's here. I couldn't work. I could simply go to the grocery store and the pharmacy. This is a fucking fact. This is not a conspiracy theory. Never did anybody apologize to me. Never did anybody bring it up to say, you know what? The way we went totalitarian on everybody was wrong. We shouldn't have done that. Nobody. Pierre Poilievre didn't say it, and the liberals didn't say it. I'm not looking for them to make me feel good about it, because it's the best decision I ever took. Because I know for a fact that if you put me in a corner, I will not go on my knees. I will do what I do best and give you 2 fucking middle fingers and tell you to suck it. But at the same time, we're okay with this. This is what bothers me the most. I don't trust governments from the get-go. I don't trust you. If you're career politicians, you and I are not on the same page. I don't trust you. But with that being said, it's not them that bothers me. It's the regular people that just went full-on Germany. They went full-on Nazi, and I was a Jew. It's like, everybody likes to believe that they'd be the hero if shit hits the fan, that they would hide the Jews in their basement and make sure they don't get caught. Bull fucking shit. Yeah. You know what I've learned during that time? You're a fucking snitch, just like the other people that actually snitched on their neighbor. Hey, I think they're harboring Jews over there. You should go get him. How many people got called on for having too many cars on their fucking
too many cars on Thanksgiving
lot?
dinner?
Like, are you fucking kidding me? But this is what bothers me the most, is that we're so indoctrinated that we don't even see that as a problem. And this is what made me start create content, because I'm like, what else can I fucking do if I can't be an engineer anymore? What the fuck am I supposed to do? Gonna start talking. If you're gonna back me in that corner, fuck you. You're not gonna like the consequences. But that's why I have hundreds of thousands of followers now. That's why I make millions and millions of views every month. Because if it wasn't for that, I'd still be fucking working in corporate, probably.
Guys,
this is what's interesting, right? This is the part that bothers me. It's not even that they tried doing it. I was expecting it. I was a conspiracy theorist before there was a fucking word for it. But it bothers me that my fellow Canadians, my fellow Americans, my fellow world citizens just went at it, and I got demonized for taking care of my health. I'm fucking 43 years old, in better shape than 99.9% of people that go to the gym. Not the people that don't go to the gym, the people that go to the gym. Yet I was the problem, and I needed to do more for fat ass that eats McDonald's every day. Like, I'm the problem. I'm the danger to your health.
The fat purpled hair fucks who live on McDonald's and have a BMI of fucking 300 at 24 years old.
I'm the problem.
Are telling you that you're the threat to their health. Guys, just in case you're watching for the first time here, welcome to the show. We are the Political Orphans. As you can see, we have some.
Thanks for joining today.
Yeah, we like to have a good time here, but we do talk about some serious topics. If you like what you hear, please do like and share from X. If you're on YouTube, remember to smash that subscribe button. And if you really want to support us, there's a membership option there. You can join through YouTube. That will give you priority on your comments and access to the Discord server, the Political Orphans Discord server, where we're continuing to build this community there. As you can see, this show is very heavily based on audience engagement, so that's another way you can support us. Is keep throwing those comments out there. We will get to them, hopefully. And if you are a member, we will always get to them. And as we'll take a few of those comments now, Sonia Moran says, I still wait for the same apologies and you, Nico. Yeah, I mean, that's a, that's a common.
I'm not waiting for it. It's just, I find it interesting that it will never come. It will never be addressed, and people just moved on. That's what scares me, is how fast we move on, and we forget that my grandmother died in a hospital during that period because supposedly she had it, and she died alone. My aunt and myself, one of my aunt and myself are the only one that went to see her. This is what boggles my mind, is how many, yes, you have the kids that are going to be affected by this for the rest of their lives. Now you have a bunch of our elders, like the
we've got a few of those in the comments that we're going to get to. I think Joe Stradamus.
But this is insane. This is insane that we let those people just, we were so scared that we're like, you know what? You don't have any value anymore. You can die alone. That's fucked, man. That
is fucked. Imagine living your whole life expecting, like most people do, that when it's your time, you'll at least be surrounded by your loved ones, and you get put in a box, and the only human contact you have is a nurse who probably hates you. Joe, Joe goes, well, I mean, I'm being a bit harsh on nurses, but they were undoubtedly stressed to the max during that time, and that's not the kind of people, that's not a great environment to spend your last few days. Happened to Joe. Sad part is I lost my mom and mother-in-law to COVID. It was definitely real. Sorry to hear that, Joe. Nico, you had
you for MIL. I'm sorry, Joe. All I could see is MILF. I'm like, did you forget the F at the end? Yeah. Mother-in-law. Good for you for recognizing that. I did not know what that was.
I lost my MILF.
I lost my MILF. Whoops. Sorry, Joe.
Tenchi says the amount of mental health problems that came from COVID is insane, and I assume you mean from the responses to COVID, and I couldn't agree more. And that part of the discussion was completely just left out of the equation. And if you're trying, there's no way you can be a serious and honest person and have this discussion if you're trying to talk about actual public health policy without understanding that angle from it, because. I think in my opinion, and especially in retrospect, and I think probably most people here agree, I think the actions to the virus were probably far more harmful than the actual virus itself.
There was, hold on, let me show, because what you just said there, and I think Kris is a big proponent of this as well. At least that's the impression I'm getting. But Dr. Phil, which meant since that guy does not run his show anymore, since he's kind of on his own and he left mainstream television, that dude's been dropping bomb left, right, and center.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, bro, I don't know if you remember this, but he was on The View, the most leftist of the woke, and this is what he told them about the impact. And I'm pretty sure, I just Googled it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's a fucking insane.
Dr. Phil, I mean, of the thing COVID itself, some
same agencies that knew that.
Let me just pull it right there.
Same agencies that knew that are the agencies that shut down the schools for 2 years. Who does that? Who takes away the support system for these children? Who takes them away and shuts it down? And by the way, when they shut it down, they stopped the mandated reporters from being able to see children that were being abused and sexually molested, and in fact sent them home and abandoned them to their abusers with no way to watch, and referrals dropped 60%. So
there was also a pandemic going on. They were trying to save kids' lives.
Remember, we know a lot of folks who died during this. So it wasn't people weren't laying around eating bond, but well, you know what? We're lucky. Maybe we're lucky they didn't, because we kept them out of the places that they could be sick, because no one wanted to believe we had an issue.
Are you saying no school children died of COVID?
I'm saying it was the safest group. They were the less vulnerable group, and they suffered and will suffer more from the mismanagement of COVID than they will from the exposure to COVID.
He's right.
And that's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Boom! Like Joe Rogan during a knockout. No!
I thought it was the video. I didn't realize it was guys commentating.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. The guys are like, oh! But I saw the full clip. He was just dropping bombs, and you saw the girls are just like, oh,
how dare you? How dare you? The fact that got so political is such indictment on where the culture and society is today. That should never have been political. It's a public health risk. What's the right thing to do? What's the real risks? What are the risks of the lockdowns versus the risk of the virus? And none of that was involved in the conversation.
You got banned, attacked heavily on Twitter back in the day. You couldn't bring up anything. You were trying to
I don't have my Facebook anymore because of a Facebook.
Well, as you said, Chris, and many of the things you got banned, like for example, if you said, if you asked a question,
even today on YouTube,
where did the virus
even right now?
Yeah, where did the virus come from? If you ever said, is it possible it was a lab leak, considering there's a fucking virology institute in Wuhan that specializes in novel coronaviruses? Is it possible that the coronavirus outbreak that happened in Wuhan was maybe a lab leak? Nope, you're racist, banned. And now that's we understand that's exactly what happened. The CIA came out and said that's where it came from. But
what you're seeing right now, covid.gov, that is our new website for the White House.
That's hilarious. And that's one of the things that I'll say regular here. I'm not a conspiracy theorist like Nico. However, the conspiracy theorists have been proven right enough that I can't dismiss them right offhand.
I even take issue with the word leak in that.
Yeah.
I have questions. I'm not saying I know. I'm just saying I have questions.
It's
and that's not okay to have questions. That's pretty much what I've been shown over the past 4 years. All the hate, everything that I've lost over the past 4 years is not saying I know the truth. Is, hey, maybe, just maybe, there's something else going on. Can we consider it? Can we have that conversation? Is it possible?
40,000 feet.
Nope.
Yeah, well, because and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but do you mean because the word leak implies that it was an accident?
Oh,
yeah.
Zing!
Yeah. Well, and you can have that conversation even if you want to. Like, it doesn't have to be like powerful group. It could just be a rogue scientist who just said, you know what, fuck it. But that's entirely possible.
I've seen Resident Evil.
Perhaps even likely, if you consider that the kind of security that these types of places have when dealing with these sorts of viruses, probably the most likely explanation is that it was done intentionally on some level.
Well, or at the very least, the opportunity was presented in that, right? Because we can go back into this as far as some military games and stuff that were happening, and
of course,
there's like tentacles there as far as that. But what we do know is that the response was maximized. And again, if you just want to look on the brass tacks, the massive wealth transfer that occurred, I mean,
that can't be ignored. That cannot be ignored. And it was only one way. And it was not ambiguous. Huge.
It just seemed too coordinated.
Trillions.
Go ahead.
So yeah, just saying trillions of dollars from the middle and working classes directly into the pockets of the already very wealthy, the already very powerful, and you can't ignore that.
Yeah, and I got to be careful with how I say this. So, and there's a Colonel Redmond who used to be in charge of Alberta Health Services, who created the pandemic preparedness plan, right? And what I found, like, the uniformity is kind of what scared me, because in Canada, we're supposed to have provincial autonomy when it comes to healthcare. And so every province and territory has their own pandemic management response. They all threw them out, right? So it's like, okay, well, who made that decision? How did it end up that lockdowns are the way to go? Why would you, okay, the word that shall not be same. You have a lot of virologists saying you do not use this tool into the pandemic. When it's happening, you don't introduce something like that. You need to have things play out in a normal way so you don't create variants and all these other things. I'm not a virologist, but you have a lot of these people saying, hey, how did the uniformity come into play? And then you have people like us that are saying, hey, wait a second, common sense, like, you're causing a ton of harm. Like, the response needs to be measured. But it just seemed to be right across the country. Didn't matter what demographic. I focus on youth because I picked up I used to be an advocate, had 2,000 people on my phone. And when this hits, right, it's just like I'm getting calls constantly to the point that there's nothing I can do. I could go to the BC Human Rights Tribunal. They're not even taking complaints right now. There's nothing I can do with the health authority. They will not let you in to see your mom, right? To the point where I had to literally go and say to my mom, hey, we got to get the hell out of here because people are now showing up at my house. I'm the guy that would have options, right? You got a problem, somebody that has a problem, go talk to Kris, because he's about options. He's not going to tell you what to do, but he understands the system, right? Yep. There was nothing for me. And so I see this going on. It's like what Nico did. It's like I said to my mom, I'm not being put in a situation for me where I'm going to have a health authority say I cannot see my mother. That's where the Aries in me is going to be problematic. And I don't want to end up in prison. You know, I know they're just following orders, but at the same time, that's my mom. And she's not going to be isolated. Show me the data. We can get into that. So I left. We moved out to the Okanagan. Best decision I ever made, right? I'm on a lake. I'm connected to nature because I'm a big proponent of, you can't let them inside. You can't internalize a lot of what we're seeing over the last 5 years. It's going to get worse, you know, in scope. You know, you can imagine there's still challenges ahead. I won't say worse. There's still challenges. But we got to be able to pull ourselves out and realize that this is the thing that matters right now. Is if you stare into that abyss, if you internalize everything, then those ripple effects. So if you've been able to make it through this and with a level of understanding and clarity of, you know, finding yourself, I've never felt more sovereign in my life. I've never felt more liberated in my life, being detached from that system, focusing on myself, focusing on what matters to me, so that in return, I can be good for other people that I know are struggling. It's like we're all walking through this storm. So we need people to be able to keep their heads together and to be able to understand that focus on what you can control in your life, do what you can outside, but have boundaries in regards to how much of yourself you're willing to give over, how vulnerable, you know, because rebuilding trust, I think, is one of the biggest things that has been a problem. Like Nico, I lost, seriously, like my 30-year reunion for high school is this year. And the only reason, because I was on Facebook, right? I had like, I don't know, like 600 followers. I got 23 now because I'm just like, screw you guys. Like you're all, I don't wish you harm, but I don't recognize you anymore. And the only reason I would go to my reunion is to grab the mic, just to be at the end. You know what you did.
Yeah.
I was here for you guys my whole life, shirt off my back. And I made a decision about my personal bodily autonomy. And I'm the enemy. Really, I'm pointing out the harm that's being done to kids, and I'm the enemy. Okay, I don't need you. So it cleared out a lot of people. Like in the end, you want to know. I use the proverbial, I want to know who I can be in a trench with. And know, you know, on a core base principled value that we are the same in that sense. We can have differences of opinions on other things. I get that. But at the end of the day, I need to know that, you know, when the chips are down, and that's kind of what it did. It removed people from my life that I thought were good people. And in the moment, they made a fear-based response. So I'm not saying they're not a good person, but when the shit hits the fan, I don't want to be around you. I saw that look in your eyes. We all remember the looks in people's eyes when we're walking around, people that are very highly agitated. So I find myself in the process. I found good people, and I continue to find good people as far as, you know, we're on the same page. I'm not trying to tell you guys how to think. I see you guys are doing good work. I want to help support that. But we've got that mentality where we come to that point where we realize that no one's coming for us in that sense, as far as those that have been traumatized and are waiting for that apology. If you stay there and you're waiting for that apology, the resentment, the anger, the feel of self-worth, you don't feel like you have any value, that you did the right thing and yet you were still abandoned. You got to get to the point where you understand that, okay, that happened, but you can't stay there in a paralyzed state, because that's what post-traumatic stress will do. Is like you question everything, right? And then if you're on X all the time, you're getting all of this negativity, right? And that's kind of why I share baby goats, I share music, you know, to try and lighten the mood. But at the end of the day, we're still in this, and it's a marathon. So I think that, you know, I'll leave it there. It was kind of a bit of a ramble, but I think that, you know, coming full circle after 5 years to be in the point where I can say honestly that I'm in a good place mentally, I'm in a good place physically. I have things I'm grateful for in my life. I wake up every morning and, okay, we get another one, right? What am I going to do with today? Am I going to garden? Am I going to shit post on X? I don't know. I'll get to it when I feel that moment. But I think that the trauma that was caused, to have it be ignored, is one of the underlying, the insidious part of it, where it breaks my heart, because I used to be a crisis line volunteer. I used to be a community advocate. Like I understand what trauma is, and for me to believe they didn't know what they were doing was going to cause that. I can't accept that. I think it was very depraved indifference defined, as far as where we're at now, with all the people just looking at that and saying, oh, it didn't happen. No, it happened. But it's going to be up to people like us to be able to try and foster that sense of community, to make people realize they have value and they're not alone. You're not walking alone. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks, Jeff.
You know, one of the things that I did during that period of time, not only did I move to the woods, but I started giving free hugs to people, like all the protests. So I was at the convoy, the trucker convoy. I was in all the protests where we're hundreds of thousands of people protesting. I'm all about energy, right? I don't surround myself with bad energy. If you're bad, I cut you off. I don't need that around me. So I'd rather be alone. I can live in the woods alone by myself. I've done it for more than a year and a half. So I know that I can do it, and I actually enjoy it. But this was the biggest thing when I was giving hugs, and I gave thousands of hugs in the middle of COVID where you couldn't be within 6 feet of each other, right? And that was always the message. And often, more time than again, were from mature men, like over 50, and especially the elderly. They would hug me as in they haven't been hugged in so long, and they would all tell me something very similar in their own words, where my family abandoned me. They think that they're protecting me. I'm not saying that they did it maliciously, but my family thinks that they're protecting me, but they're leaving me alone. And now I live alone. I don't have anybody to talk to. I can't see anybody. I can't hug anybody. We're social creatures, right? We're supposed to be surrounded by others like us. And this is what I was getting the most. Like, I've had so many people cry on my shoulder just because I was giving them a hug. I was just a fucking bozo. I'm like, I can't just put negative energies out there, so I'm going to hug people. Like, the dumbest of fucking ideas, right? But yet I did it all over the place. I did it when I was traveling to the US as well, but it did not have the same impact. I came to that conclusion not too long ago because I tried to do it because I traveled coast to coast to coast. We did 30 states in the past 2.5 years, my wife and I, in an RV, and I tried to give hugs all over the place. It was not the same. And I came to realize that the social mentality wasn't in the right place. Like, people needed it during COVID. Today, it's not the same because people somehow have access to their families. It's not the same. We're not in the same climate right now. Right. But back then, that's the most. If you knew how many times I cried just from the energy, somebody didn't have to say anything. Just the way they were hugging a complete stranger, just like I was their dear father or I was somebody that really they've known me for 30 years. Yet we didn't even talk. We literally hugged, they left. That was it. But you felt the energy. It's just, it was as fulfilling for me as it was for them. But if you believe in energy transfer, it was one of the most energy draining thing I've ever done. And I used to fight as an amateur, just to give you an example. So I know what it is to not be able to pick up your fists anymore because you're too tired. But that was more draining physically, mentally, and spiritually. But we need it. Like, we just need it. And it's unfortunate, like, we can play devil's advocate and say that it wasn't done on purpose. Let's say, that's not what I believe, but let's say it wasn't done on purpose. They didn't give a fuck. They knew, even if it was all, don't believe any of the conspiracy theories. You'll never be able to convince me that they didn't know the effect. That even though, let's say it was an accident, they didn't manage it properly at all, and they knew what they were doing. That is the least that we have to agree on, because just look at what DeSantis did. I remember being in the fucking woods in Canada, looking at what DeSantis was doing in Florida, where you wanted the vaccine, no problem, you can have it, it's available, but no companies, no public entities can force you to get it. You want to wear your mask, no problem. You don't have to. You want to send your kids to school, no problem. I think they were closed for like 2 months or 3 months, and they're like, no problem. You want to send your kids to school? Go for it. The schools are open. You don't? No problem. We can do it remotely. How complicated would that have been to just handle it that way? Yet you look at the numbers, there's no significant difference between massive lockdowns and how Florida handled it on the case-by-case COVID. But look at the mental state. There's a good fucking reason why so many people moved to Florida during those times, because they still were able to have a life. And we are fucking social creatures. And if I know this, if you know this, bullshit that the people in charge didn't fucking know this.
Yeah. And we start calling the politicians, and I'm asking questions, and I had a huge network in BC as far as people being able to rely on me to shoot straight on things. Didn't matter who I phoned. Nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody could answer the questions I wanted them answered. But the most importantly, no one was willing to say anything, right? Like, that's the sad part. Yeah, test run for UBI, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the underlying things, right? That as far as what an end goal is having the people more dependent on government for housing, for food stamps. Is kind of what I view UBI as. But yeah, I think, just to finish off on that, it's nobody stood up. They made examples of the guys like Derek Sloan and others that tried to speak up. But the political establishment, bureaucracy, was all lockstep. And it was so inhumane that's a part of the reason, like I said, it's what gives me fire in my belly and that inner fire for me in general, as far as I know how many people are. It's like being on a battlefield. I think in some ways I kind of view myself as a combat medic, right? It's like people went through it. You may not want to see it, but we're still on that proverbial battlefield. And a lot of people need help, and I can't provide them with the answers. But like you said, Nico, the most human experience in those moments, in people's darkest hours, for you to be able to wrap your hands around it, you're like absorbing what they're feeling at the same time. If you have empathy and compassion, and you're also in a traumatized state and you're confused, that level of connectivity, those frequencies when they meet, is extremely powerful and one of the most human experiences you can have, really, when it comes to connecting with another human being. So
that's a great point. As Wise Guy says here, please, would as many of you as possible hit the like button today. The show is important to everyone involved, and it will give the views a real boost. No, I'm not being paid. LOL. No, in fact, he's paying us.
He's paying us.
No, but he is, of course, a supporter of the show. And guys, that is probably the best way to support us for sure. If you do agree that we're doing important work here, there's an important show, and there's value in a space like this on the internet. If you're listening here to this conversation, you can see that I think you'll agree that there is a lot of value here. We're having, I think, some of the conversations that you're not going to see a whole lot in other places. There are certainly people having these conversations, but I think what's unique is the way we approach pretty much every single issue. There's no judgment here. Everyone's voice here is just as valid, especially if you're showing your work. You're explaining how you're getting to your position, how you're getting to your argument. And we clearly don't always agree on every single issue, but that's kind of the point. That's where the value lies. Is I think everyone, you're going to feel free to speak your opinion here in a judgment-free area, and you're going to be validated, even if people don't agree with you. So if you agree that there's value in that kind of a show, please like and share, as Misfit here says. And if you want to be part of the community, there's a join now button on YouTube, and that will give you access. That'll give you priority comments here, and it'll give you access to the Discord server.
Let me add to this. I'll play Rob right now. If you're on X, because I see a lot of the views are coming from X, I understand if you don't like YouTube. I get it. But if you do use YouTube, please come to the YouTube platform.
There's a whole conversation you guys are missing.
That's the thing. We have so many comments, and we have so many. Our listeners are fucking intelligent. It surprises me how intelligent our commentators are. But yet they're here every day. They join us for fucking 2.5 hours. I don't know how they do it, because I can't stand myself for that long. But they're still here. But the point is that if you follow Kris, if you follow us on X, and you're not following us on YouTube, that's your call of the day. Go to the YouTube channel at the Poli Orphans. Give us a subscribe there, because this is really where the conversation is taking place.
And sorry, that was Wise Guy that said that, not Misfit.
Yeah, no, I know it was too intelligent to be a comment
Misfit.
from Misfit.
That's right. There's no way. Yeah, he wouldn't.
Yeah. Sorry, Misfit, you're part of the team now. I'm gonna rip on you. I'm gonna rip on you every single time. But yeah, if you're on X, guys, and you use YouTube, just go there for 2 seconds. At the Poli Orphans, just comment, just subscribe, like the show, subscribe to it, help us with the algorithm, boost this, because we are doing something that does not exist. You will not find another show where you have a lefty and a righty that try to get along every day. If you're conservative, you know that trying to get along with a liberal is not an easy task.
No.
And for a liberal, it's not easy to get along with a conservative, but yet we do it every day. And our comment section is filled with people that are liberal, people that are conservative, people that are somewhere in between. Some people like Rob and I that don't have a fucking place to call home. I'm a conservative, and the Conservative Party does not represent me whatsoever. They're liberals in cheap clothing. That's how I see the Conservative Party. So I don't know where I fit, but if you don't know where you fit either, come to our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and participate in the conversation there.
As Joe Stradamus here says, my favorite part here is how people agree on so many points regardless of their orientation. And that I love that comment, because that's exactly what we're trying to show. And really, we do use labels because they still have some value, like I'm a liberal and Nico's a conservative. At the end of the day, we're just common sense people, and if you start from that spot, you'll find what Joe sees here, that we actually agree on a whole lot more points than the media would have us believe. So
did you just say doo-doo again?
I don't think so. Did I? Doo-doo?
Did he say
No.
doo-doo?
No. You're just,
we do agree.
No, we do agree a lot. No, I don't think
Rob,
so. Did I?
Rob is very good at doubling the words in the same
itself.
sentence.
Very, yeah. I'm the head of the Department of Redundancy department here.
I get called out for the doo-doo a lot with other people.
Yeah.
No, but
use that one.
Rob says doo-doo, but the other day he says it's okay because society will always self-police itself.
Yeah.
And I've never let that one go, and I will never let it go. We'll have T-shirts made soon, and I will happily wear that because it's
Department of Redundancy department. Sasquatch said something here I wanted to highlight because I thought it was really good. Yes, a population that cannot figure out what a man and woman is easily manipulated. Yeah, exactly right. If you can't figure out what the fuck the difference between men and women, something that humans have known for as long as we've existed until about 5 minutes ago, then you're telling on yourself that you may as well have a fucking grift me sign on your back or because it don't get much easier than that. If it's that hard for you to figure out, you are going to go down to whatever fucking cliff the Pied Piper wants to lead you down.
Usually when something like that happens, it's like I my natural reflexes can help me, wrap my head around your thinking. Though there's certain things right now that there's not even a starting point because something like that.
You can't even. Right? How could you ever, if you can't agree on the difference between men and women, how could we ever talk about any sort of serious topic?
Yeah, on a base level, there's got to be some things that as a starting point,
100%.
so at least I can know that there's like a cognitive, there's an ability for dialogue there. But
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
but I think,
I don't waste my time on that anymore. I promote obviously what that is and wanting women to have their safe spaces in sports and in schools as far as bathroom usage and all that kind of stuff, right? But as there's no it's like even Musk says, and again, am I a fan of Elon Musk? I agree with some things, I don't agree with others. I'm not a champion of any one individual, right? But he did say, he describes it as a mind virus.
That's a great description.
It seems to be very true because there's just something on a base level. If that's where you're at, there's such a disconnect for me that I know I'm not going to be able to change your opinion, no matter what logic or reason. There's going to be. Plus, it's also a visceral response that you get from people that are in that frame. It's like, equality, and if you want to be a dolphin, you can be a dolphin. If you want to have a cat box in the schools, you can use the litter box. And I'm not doing that. I'm not playing your game. You can call me whatever you want. You can slap whatever labels. You can throw tomatoes at me. I don't care. I'm going to stand there. I'm going to take it and say you are wrong. And I'm confident in my belief. I don't need to hear your explanation for why I am the bane of society, right? Stand up for women's rights, protect children. If you can't get on board with that, then, it's to you each their own. But again, when you see it's such an insidious thing that we're left in that world of crazy town. Some of those things fall into crazy town that I think, 100 years from now, 50 years from now, they're going to look back and you'll see how it was done insidiously and how it was reinforced through media and reinforced through an agenda, a clear agenda. But it was never even a question for me. And again, I am for I don't like the letters thing, right? Like what you do in your bedroom is none of my business as long as it doesn't involve minors. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter to me. I really don't want to know the details. And if you ask me about it, I'm not going to tell you anything about me either. It's like we get to this point now in society where it's the public's business about everything. Well, when you start, like we talked about earlier with religion, it's like when you start imposing those beliefs and it's causing harm within a community, and we can scale that harm. We can take a look at it and see what the long-term outcomes are of that if it's not checked. But we can't have that discussion without being demonized, vilified, banned from X, or not X, but banned from social media, the censorship. We have a real problem with that. And that's why we have to be able to, like we've done today, navigate the spaces, trying to have discussions, knowing that we're still having that pressure as far as what we can say and what we can't say, but not self-censoring when it comes to what you believe is right from a moral perspective, from a values principled side of things. If you've got the voice and you don't use it, well, then you're part of the problem, in my opinion. Like, you got to find your voice. You got to speak up for others that need you to speak up for them. But also check your tone and know that at times there may be things that you need to, if you don't have that dialogue, like what you guys do, you have that situation where often things there's a break off point. So me and Nico can agree on 9 or 10 things. Me and you can agree on 9 out of 10 things, but that one thing in other conversations will keep us from even being able to discuss those 9 things, right? So there's that break apart. So the ability to come in and show that you can have civil discourse and disagree is where you can build those alliances, build those bridges back to normalcy, right? And it has to happen. More and more people just need to keep trying to have those conversations. But I already know, if I see that look in your eyes, if I'm triggering you, I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to waste my time. There are other people that I know that are still in the middle. I'm in the middle, and I point fingers at both sides, left, right. I don't care. You know, it's. But to find you guys,
that's why free speech is everything. That's why, because I point fingers. Right now, both sides don't like me. Conservatives fucking don't like me. The people that used to like me 3 months ago because I was talking about the woke, they don't like me anymore because I'm talking as bad against the conservative. I'm really harsh on Capolia.
So
people fucking hate it. But the point is that without common sense, I don't care what we can talk about as long as we're capable of talking about it. I don't care what it is. Free speech is number one. Free speech is always going to be number one because without it, we can't even entertain those conversations. But you know, this is what sucks about, I'm going to steal some of your thunder there to talk about our Discord server, but this is why we build that fucking Discord server, because right now, there's no place that we can have an actual conversation without being censored. I don't care where you're, even on X, they censor people. People don't know this, but X will censor people. There's just about Rumble, maybe, that will not censor. I've never had anything taken down from Rumble. It's the only place. But that's why we created that Discord server, because it's closed. Like, it is closed. If you're not a member, you can't participate. You can see what's going on. You can react, but you can't share. But that's why those spaces are so fucking important, so that we can have those conversations and go in there, because I'm not going to filter you. Now, I want you to be respectful. That's all I'm asking. Is like, as you can see in the comment, people are respectful. Like, people are not calling each other's name. They're not agree to disagree. That's great. That's fucking awesome. But let's have that conversation. And that's why I think a Discord is maybe a game changer, because we have to have a space where we're capable. Fuck, I hate that space word. It's such a fucking lefty term. But we need to be able to have that environment.
Like,
we want to have a safe space. We need to be able to have that environment where it's still capable of having those conversations. Even with the members on the show, you know, there's people that will say stuff on the Discord server that will not say it on the comment section here. Not because YouTube will prevent them, but because there's people in their families that might see it. Yep. This is sad. Like, I understand why sometimes it's not a battle that's worth fighting, especially not with your own family. But man, it's sad. It's a sad state of affairs.
Yeah, but you're creating. That's the thing about it. It seems to me, anyways. It's like, you know, you get into the point. It's like, okay, who's your community? Who's your tribe in this? I'm not saying it's tribal, but there's a component to it when you're just like, we just want to have an environment free of judgment, that you can have freedom of expression, feel free, so you're able to express yourself. People may argue with you, but it's not even necessarily considered an argument. I have a different opinion. But
yes,
you can
exactly.
still fist bump at the end of the day, knowing that your core values, at least as far as what whatever it is, integrity, respect, honesty, the whatever your core values are, you can still come from that, and that's your root structure as far as the Discord goes, and then you can build out from there and be inclusive. Because once people realize, that's what I think is, it's not necessarily a safe space, right? It is really that the ability that you can be there and have a freedom of expression, to not be judged for your opinions. And not to say it doesn't happen, but it can happen. But at least you're not in a situation where you feel isolated after that. You feel like you've been attacked and you've been devalued. You know, as long as you can create that environment where people feel free to express themselves, but it's still a sense of community. Because the last thing you want is to create an echo chamber. You want to create, you want to have free thought. It's like you're just trying to be like a gulch for lack of judgment, for a respectful environment, to encourage people to speak their minds and try and foster that discussion of civil discourse, as opposed to saying, well, we can't talk about that here. Yeah, it's real. You can't talk about certain things on certain platforms if you're bringing it to the public. But if you're behind whatever it is, if it's a paywall, $2.99, whatever it is you guys are doing, you're still having a situation where people can come in there and have confidence that they're not going to be attacked, devalued, judged, and viewed as less than. You know, everyone brings something to the table. Everyone has value, is good at some things, and if you can treat your community with respect, it's only going to grow, you guys.
And that's I think you hit the nail on the head, exactly what we're trying to create here. And I think that shows why this kind of community is necessary or needed on the internet, social media these days. So we'll get into a couple of these comments. Kashmir says, I think we need more God, but I do think the idea of a pope is very outdated. And that's a reference to, the topic of the day. I think we got away from that a little bit, but that's what happens on this show. I think one of the beauties of this show is we have our topics, but then we kind of just go wherever the conversation goes, but we'll always come back to it as well. So Kashmir,
that's kind of the perfect
segue. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for bringing that up, but I agree with, I'm judging by the cover that it's a woman. I agree with her that we do need more God. Call God a Christian God, a Buddhist God, whatever God you want, it's fine. But we do need more God in our life, as in there's a creator. Agree on the name, give it the name you want, call it nature, call it the universe, call it Jesus Christ, whatever. We do have to, I couldn't agree with her more, because this is what I found when I spent a lot of time by myself in the woods. There's no way that you can remove all distractions, be in nature, and not understand that there's a creator. There's no way. We're so far disconnected from nature in the city. We're so far disconnected from each other. We can't even fucking see the stars in the city at night. This is what the most mind-blowing thing is. When you're alone in the woods, just sit outside, look at the stars. You're like, there's no fucking way this is an accident. There's no way. There's just no way. So, Kashmir, not only are you bringing us back on topic, which only took 2 hours, it's pretty good, actually. It's pretty solid. Thank you. And yes, she's a woman. Cool.
Yeah,
so as much.
On that note, I did have some stuff. It's probably a little too late to play it, but I guess we can talk about it on the next show, about the Pope specifically, because I did want to kind of get into a little bit about him. I mean, the Pope is still a relevant cultural and political figure, as well as religious. So I think it is important to at least to just sort of know what kind of Pope we're getting. We don't need to play all the clips and videos, but I don't know if you guys did your research or into what, and you can let me know what you sort of thought of him. But the take I get from the guys, he seems, I think, what was the word that they used to describe him yesterday, Nico? They said progressive centrist. I don't think that's right. If anything, he seems like
that was Jason.
Moderate.
That was Jason. Yeah.
I think it was just someone that we had seen on the internet or something. But
it was in their comment section. Somebody called him a centrist, progressive centrist, and I said that doesn't make sense. Those two words should not follow each other.
Because when I did just studying on what I've heard from him specifically, if anything, he seemed like a moderate conservative, slightly center right to me. If a traditionalist, like he's a traditionalist on women priests, a Catholic priest. He's supportive of, he thinks LGBTQ plus whatever the fuck people should be treated with dignity and respect. And of course that's true, but I think he's more of a traditionalist on some LGBTQ plus issues. So if to call him a progressive, I don't think it's true. I've heard some people call him woke, and I didn't see any evidence.
That was me. That was me that saw that this morning, and I asked you, I'm like, can you find this?
Yeah.
And I didn't believe it for a second, but you know how people are, right? They put a picture of somebody. I believe in wokeness in marks, and people believe it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's our source of information.
That's how the internet works.
Yep.
So if you're interested in this specific Pope, I mean, that's the kind of, we can go into details on the next show. We don't need to watch the clips, but that's kind of what I got. If you guys heard or got anything differently, let us know. Tenshi here says organized religion is terrible, but yes, we do need more God. I think that's a pretty valid comment. I think that's and again, if you want to define God as just sort of like a higher power or sort of respect or belief in a creator. Well, I don't necessarily believe that either. I don't know what it is, but I do believe there's something more. I mean, yeah, I think there. I just don't know. Fuck. It's such a hard. I know, right? Like, this isn't really the formula for this conversation.
I fucking love it.
I'm certainly not. I certainly don't rule anything out. One thing I know for sure is that whether there's a God or not, the actual, like, say, Judeo-Christian values and just the belief in a higher power is absolutely essential for order in society. And I think that as we've gotten away from that and more towards a secular society, what we see is we actually don't become more secular. We just change our gods, we change our religion, and many of these new ones are far more harmful and destructive than the old ones. The old, like Christianity, is not going around telling teenagers that there's something wrong with their body, and the only way to fix it is cut your balls off, cut your dick off, or telling young women to cut your breasts off, and then you'll be your most authentic self. So if that's what we're going to transition to, give me the old religion, give me the old gods.
That's very interesting you say that, because you can go even further than that to say that a religion like Christianity is telling you to love those people no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, not only are you supposed to love them, you're supposed to love them so much that you want to help them change, help them see that there's a problem with their views. So being a Christian is not a very simple thing. It's a fucking demanding thing. But it is interesting to see that we, as you said, if you remove religion, like traditional religion, we start
just that moral code, right? We need that something to tether ourselves to, and
it seems like it. Yep.
Yeah, and even if hypothetically, even if it's all fake, clearly it's a good fake to believe in, because once we start getting away from it, everything goes to shit.
I'm gonna have to interject here, guys. I'm gonna have to go. My day. Not because of that topic, but
we do tend to get a little we definitely go over. I don't know if Nico told you, we go from noon till 2. Oh, that's like officially. I don't think we've ended at 2 p.m. in months.
Okay. It's like I just have other things I have to get to for the day.
No worries,
brother.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you coming on, Kris. Hopefully you had fun. We had a great time with you, and hopefully we do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I'll keep pumping your content, and thank you for everyone who's watching for listening today. And yeah, let's do it again. Absolutely.
Elbows up.
I'm not doing it. Not even I'm not doing it. You guys can.
Yeah. No worries.
Thanks a lot, Kris. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good work, guys.
Yeah. You too.
Yep, absolutely.
Have a great weekend, Kris.
Take care. You too. Bye-bye.
Pump the content.
Pump it up.
The content. Yeah.
There was a comment I saw from Hillbilly that I wanted to discuss, because I thought it was interesting. And I don't even need to find it, but I think it was the one where he said the people that brought you COVID are the people who are bringing you the Alberta separatist thing. And I mean, that certainly, I feel like that would open a can of worms. I don't know that I get what he's saying, and correct me, in Hillbilly, you can jump in here, but I believe he's saying the separatism would lead to more of, like, perhaps a North American Union, which would lead to, in theory, perhaps the one world government. I think that's the angle he's taking from that. I certainly think there's people here that would disagree with that, but it's an interesting conversation. I understand the logic. I don't think I agree with it, but I understand the logic. I don't think it's crazy.
The thing is, and we've spoken about this before, I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart. Like, this is where I see the world through a conspiracy lens. And unfortunately, every single place I see us going, all the options that we have are bad. Like, it can all lead to a specific place that we're not going to enjoy. So I'm like, what are we supposed to do here? Right? Yeah. What are we supposed to do? Because Kris said something that I completely agree with, is you can't live your life in fear. And that is something I refuse to do. Even during 2020, when everybody shunned me, when I was left alone, I was never mad at people. I was never scared. I was just, you know what? This is the life this is the choice I'm making. This is the life I'm going to live for now. But this is why, I say this all the time. My faith is in God, not in men. So that's why, to me, God, if I don't understand how people live their lives without believing that there's something greater than us all. Again, call it nature. I'm a Christian, so I know what my God is. But call it nature, call it the universe, call it whatever the fuck you want. Put the label that you want on it. But to live without that faith that there is something greater than us all, that you have reasons to be here, like you were not an accident, you're here for a specific reason, it's up to you to find what that purpose is. Remove that, And I understand why our
where's the
society is so
meaning,
sick.
right? Where's
But
the
that's why
meaning?
society is
Yeah,
so sick. Because if you
agreed.
look, you look at communism, socialism, what's the first thing they do? They remove the connection between the people and God. And
Yeah.
they put themselves in there. We become their God. And you look at what wokeism or woke ideology is, that's
It's the
all
same
it is.
thing. It's the same
It
thing.
is a God. You just pray to a very different fucking God. And you know the video we showed yesterday about that RCMP agent that needs to do a land recognition before she gives an update about the two missing kids
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Nova Scotia is the perfect, like,
That's a
I'm gonna
religious
pray-
ritual.
ouch.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You're
100%.
praising, you had to praise the woke God before you actually
Before you get to the business of the day, which is the fucking kids, right? That's yeah.
Fuck.
That's so crazy, man. That's so wild. But you're right. You're 100% right. That is, there's no other way. And especially when you, I think when you first say that, like that this is a religious practice or a religious ritual, people will be like, oh, that's crazy. But if you really think about it and you step back a little bit and look at it objectively, that's exactly what it is. 100% is what it is. And you're right, because I think without that sense of something bigger, what is the meaning of life? And if people lose that sense of meaning, they're going to try to find meaning somewhere else. And clearly the places they're looking for it are harmful, are much more harmful than whatever harms religion could bring. And I say that as a officially I'm an atheist. So I mean, take that for what it's worth.
But be careful for the people that are just watching this. I'm a Christian. It's clear as day. Rob, as much as he says that he's an atheist, he's kind of full of shit. I'm going to call
Well, I believe in something
because
more.
he doesn't know where he fits. Like, because there's not really a really clear term for what you come from. Because atheists normally don't believe in God. Then you have people that just, I don't know what the term is to describe you. I really don't.
I mean, maybe agnostic. I don't believe in a personal God. I don't. I think there probably is a creator, but I don't think he gives a shit about our personal lives. I think, I think it's just, I don't know, to have God that's so powerful to create the entire universe and yet cares about each and every single thing. If anything, I think he may love his creation and be proud of that. I don't know that he cares what we do in our personal life, I guess is my take.
That's sure.
But yeah, I mean,
we can go down that
it's a work
in 15 minutes.
No, certainly not. It's I'm certainly, honestly, my take on that stuff is similar to my political orientation. It's a work in progress. It's still evolving. It's not, I think when I was younger, I certainly have some of the beliefs I had when I was younger. I realized that those are not correct. When I first sort of, as I said, I grew up very religious in the way that it wasn't necessarily, I think, the healthy version of religion. I think it was more the fundamentalist version, and it was religion as a tool, as a weapon of control. And I saw so much hypocrisy in the church that I grew up that it really sort of soured me on it. And I think what I did is I rejected all of it in response to that. And then as I'm getting older, I'm starting to realize, well, you didn't necessarily need to throw out the baby with the bathwater, and trying to go back and pick apart the things that made sense, separate the things that were, because as you've said, these are, the church is still made up of people, human beings, right, that make mistakes. And there are absolutely going to be people who are not sincere in their beliefs in the church, just like anywhere else. And so I'm trying to sort of separate that, that from what might be a greater truth.
Sasquatch, he was Pentecostal. So
yeah, I grew up Pentecostal.
Even me as a Christian, I look at Pentecostal, I'm like, people speaking tongues and screaming all over the place. I'm like, yee. That is a hard one for me to understand, but
yeah. It was pretty excessive, pretty extreme.
I like the kind of the change that the Misfit is bringing in here, because I think we need it.
I agree with this.
That's a path that I can't go down with 15 minutes to go, but I did open a joke of the day folder or discussion on the Discord server, and I have one. And
I got one too. You tell yours, and I'll tell
no, it's not a joke. It's a meme. I'm just gonna show the meme.
Oh, okay, yeah, show it.
It's hold on. It's Robin that actually shared that.
Okay.
I'm just gonna show it, and I was laughing my ass off when I read that this morning. It's fucking awesome. So for the people that are listening to this, all it says is tariffs are working so well that even the Pope is made in America.
Classic. That's actually really good.
It's politically correct. Like for the type of, it is not blackface in the army, right? My favorite skit from Andrew Schultz. So it's, this was politically correct. It's weird because I liked it. I don't normally like it.
But no, it was clever. It was clever.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, very, very clever. Misfit grew up LDS, so that's Mormons. That's an interesting.
Actually, I grew up doing LSD. Is it the same thing?
All right,
Not
all
quite,
right, all right. I got one. What does a gay horse eat?
Oh, hold on. Hey. I heard that one.
Yeah, it's so good. I really like that one.
Hey.
What do you think? Do we want to keep going for another few minutes, or you want to cut her? It's weekend after all.
No, I think we'll call it a day. I think so. Again, I'm gonna take advantage of the fact that we have a lot of the followers from Kris that are still on the X right now. All I want to say, guys, is thank you for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hopefully we'll see you again. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to share if you're on X. And if you're on X, join us on YouTube at the Poli Orphans. Very simple. You can find us, but we have those discussions every single day, Monday to Friday, 2.5 hours. Yes, we do cover the news. Yes, Rob is a lefty. I'm a righty. Yes, we disagree. Yes, we agree. But it's all about the community that we're trying to build. We're really we're comment driven. If you saw the amount of comments right now.
Yeah, if you're not on YouTube, you're missing 95% of what goes on over here.
So make sure to give us a like just, on your phone, you can do that. Whoop, that Android thingy. I don't know how iPhones do.
How'd that go? What was that?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. You can literally just go to your YouTube. Anybody that has YouTube, make sure at the Poli Orphans on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Join the conversation there so you can join the madness. And maybe you'll become a member and join us on the Discord server where we can actually continue those conversations 24 hours a day. So awesome to have you on, guys.
Storm Mission says, have a good weekend, gentlemen. And Storm, I saw you had, we got a lot of comments. I saw you had taken, we didn't have time to take it today, but you mentioned Bill C-63. That's something that we talk about a lot here. Because that's probably coming down the pipe too. And I promise you, that is a hill both me and Nico are willing to die on. And if this show becomes illegal, they're gonna end up booting the door down one day. We'll be on live, and they're gonna drag us out of here because we're not gonna stop doing this. Booting the door. We're booting the door, and then we'll be in deep doo doo. But we're gonna take that one. So, guys, as Nico said, if you are new, today was a really good show. I think it gave you a sense of what the community is all about here. We have fun, but we do talk about some serious topics, and we're also going to talk about, some of the topics you're not going to see or hear out there. So, what does Joe say? My grandfather told everyone 12 times that the Titanic would sink. After the 13th time, they asked him to leave the theater.
That's actually that is a dad joke right there.
Yeah, classic. And Nico, check out what the Talmud is.
I know what it is.
Yeah, that's the Jewish. But I mean, is that not the Old Testament? Anyways, we're going down that.
No, but Northern Hillbilly. As much as I appreciate all your comments, I've been in this since I've been 14. I'm 43. So, the books behind me are not just a decoration. I actually read a lot. So thank you for what you're saying, but I'm right there with you. It's just the fact that I don't talk about it doesn't mean that I don't want to talk about it. It's because I cannot talk about it. I would like for once to have a show that is not getting banned. I would like for once to have a show that doesn't need to be on Rumble because I'm always getting in shit everywhere. I have learned to be careful about how I phrase things, and there's certain subjects that you need to be extremely careful. But that's why we created a fucking Discord server, because I don't have to worry about it there.
Should we have a religion topic or religious?
Bro, there's a lot of things. Just this morning, just to give you an example, who asked for this, because we have a suggestion board, just like, what do you guys suggest we do? What can we do to make the place better? And Nick asked me, she's like, hey, I suggest a China/Canada relations as a category in the community. I'm like, oh, fuck, that's a good point. So you know what I did? I fucking created it.
Yep.
So this is the whole point, right? And this is why there's an Alberta update community on there, because one of the subjects that we will cover every single time there is an update is what's going on with the Alberta separation. Not that we're Albertans. I'm fucking from Montreal, but I travel all the time. He's from
New Brunswick.
East for New Brunswick, so he's from the east, right? It's just that we know that the media is not going to cover this, so we took it as a responsibility to cover it. And we're going to start having next week one of the most knowledgeable, connected guy in Alberta to come and talk to us about what's going on. So
yeah, so if you have questions about it, that's the place to bring it up. And Jason's going to answer these.
But not only questions, but if you have things that you think we should talk about, because that is one of the things that I absolutely love about the Discord server, is that people can go on and recommend some topics and just say, hey, do you guys know about this?
And a lot of times you're gonna see it.
Of course, and there's no way we can know about everything. There's so much going on. We don't know, but we can use your help, and you'll get credited for it on the show. So win-win if you ask me.
Absolutely. Guys, again, if you are new and you like what you hear, remember to like and share if you're on if you're on X. If you're not, if you're on YouTube, please remember to subscribe. And if you really want to support us, if you think there's a lot of value in what we're trying to create here, the best way to do that is to join as a member. That will also give you access to the Discord server, the Political Orphans Discord server, which is basically the same thing here for this show. It's just over there 24/7. We realize that, we're trying to create a community here, but if it only exists in the 2.5 hours that we do our show every day, it's not really a real community. So the Discord server has really filled that hole. And if you join as a member here on YouTube, you will get access over there. Anyone can read. So if you do want to just go over and check out what it's like, please do so. But in order to post and comments, you will need to be a member here. And if you're not on YouTube, if you are on X, I promise you're missing 95% of the action, because most of it is over here. Storm, I'm in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and Nico is in Montreal.
But I spend half my time in the U.S., especially down south, like Alabama. So I spend a lot of time down there. But I also do travel. Like I was in B.C. last week, so I'm all over the place. I'm kind of a whore. I'm kind of a city whore,
travel whore,
country whore, whatever you want to call
Misfit. Have a good weekend, guys. Resident retard clocking out. See you. Misfit's big part of the community. Yeah. So you can see the kind of vibe that we're trying to create here. Obviously, we have a lot of laughs. We have a lot of fun. But we are tackling serious topics, but we're doing so in a way where, no one feels judged. Everyone feels like they're able to get their point across. And there aren't too many spaces like that around here. And so we think it's what we're trying to do here is important. And if you agree with that, then best way to support us is to join that as a member. It's only $2.99 a month. And basically the cup of shitty coffee, like just black from not even Tim Hortons, fucking like Irving or Canadian. I don't know if there's any Irvings out in Quebec, but just some shitty gas station coffee. That's all it is. Guys, as always, we thank you so much for being here, for all the engagement. Another excellent show, another excellent week. You could have been anywhere in the world here today, and you chose to be here with us, and we will always appreciate that. Our audience, we're never going to forget the fact that this show is entirely without the audience. This show is nothing. It's just a couple of bald idiots in their living rooms shooting the shit. So, guys, appreciate. Sylvie says, sorry, I missed the show. Have a great weekend. No worries, Sylvie. We will see you next week. Guys, have a great weekend. Be safe. Have fun. And we will catch you on Monday.
Peace out.